We are paid, that's all. We are God.
Yo guys! This is part 4 of What If Naruto was sent to another dimension. A different custom. A different language. A different time. A different dimension. Damn it Kakashi, where the hell did your Kamui send me? Don't forget to hit like and subscribe and check the author in the description. Let's start. Chapter 9. The next day greeted Naruto with a hearty breakfast and then a light jog around town. It ended up turning into a game of tag after Natsu and Happy managed to find him and everything went downhill from there. Many an innocent stand was overturned in their joy, their boisterous activity creating enough of a racket that they couldn't hear the vicious insults hurled at them as they left their trail of destruction. The game eventually ended with Naruto choking out Natsu, Happy squawking discontentedly from between Naruto's legs. Come on, say uncle. You know you want to. Just give up, it'll be easy. Natsu's face began turning purple but he resiliently held firm, gurgling incoherently. Naruto continued to laugh until he felt Natsu's flapping subside, at which he looked down. Seeing no movement, he released the hold. You okay there? Natsu? Slamming into Naruto's back full force, Happy started pouncing on his shirt, tears streaming down his cheeks. You killed Natsu. Why would you kill Natsu? We had such a full and happy life together. His rant was cut short as Natsu's hands exploded into flame. Naruto quickly found himself in a tight hold, not all that well constructed but rigid enough for him to be unable to escape. Ha! You say uncle. Just do it, you know you can't win now. Bow before my awesomeness. Shifting his mouth from under Natsu's armpit, Naruto spluttered for a moment before giving up. Alright. I can't take any more of your armpit. Releasing him, Natsu jumped high in the air and began running circles around the blonde as he wiped off his tongue, desperately trying to rid the flavor. Spitting one last time, Naruto made a foul face before standing. Dusting himself down, Naruto grabbed the boy and his cat as they passed him again. So where were you two going anyway? I mean, before tag. Their eyes widened as their previous mission was remembered. Oh yeah, that's right. We were off to Lucy's house. We always visit her, wanna come? Shrugging, Naruto gave in. Yeah sure, why not? What's she usually doing this time? Tapping a finger against his chin, Natsu looked at Happy. Well, sometimes she's writing stuff, but mostly she's in the middle of having a shower. Grinning, Naruto placed a hand on his friend's shoulder. Lead the way. Nothing quite beats a morning soak. It's what every growing girl needs. Maybe I should write some more while I have a morning off. Wiping away the last of the water droplets, Lucy wrapped the towel around herself and stepped out into her lounge room. Steam billowed out the door and she waved her hand around, clearing her vision. What she didn't expect to see was Natsu and Happy stretched out on her bed, Gray relaxing in her chair near naked and Naruto sifting through her desk. Looking over, Gray raised a hand. Yo, how was the shower? Eyes growing wide, Lucy pointed at him disbelievingly. What the hell are you doing here? Looking over, Natsu picked his nose. I dunno hey. We met him along the way and he came for some reason. I didn't invite him. Launching out with a kick, Lucy upturned her mattress and sent the boy and his cat to the floor. That's not what I was asking. I want to know why you all are even here. Looking up from under the bed, Natsu pouted. Well we came to say good morning and see if you had any food. Happy found some fish but not much else, so I was waiting till you got out to see if you had a secret stash somewhere. Pointing at the door, Lucy stomped her foot. Leave. Now. Crawling out, Natsu started whining. But why me? Why do Gray and Naruto get to stay? All of you. A cold shiver went down her back as Naruto let out an amused laugh. This stuff ain't half bad. You write this? Screaming, she dashed forward and snatched the papers from Naruto's hands, body checking the blonde into the wall. Don't read that. Sitting up, Naruto raised an eyebrow. What's wrong? It wasn't that bad. Clutching them to her chest, Lucy wriggled around uncomfortably. But it's not ready to be read yet. It's embarrassing. Letting out a bark of laughter, Naruto shook his head. No, that's not embarrassing, even the bits of kissing and stuff in it. You should have read my sensei's stuff. It was basically porn in words. That was embarrassing. I had to proofread his books. Looking at him incredulously as he shivered, Lucy then glanced down at the sheets by her chest. How much did you read? Naruto shrugged. I dunno, about half of it. Blushing heavily at the knowledge of what he saw and how closely he came to seeing a whole lot more than just kissing, Lucy pointed at the door. Out! All of you! Get out! No one moved except Natsu, who dropped back onto the bed. But Lucy, it's boring. Besides, you have such a nice house. It's comfy and smells nice. Naruto nodded in agreement while Gray started shuffling around. Yeah, I can't really say how good it smells, but it really is pleasant for the cost of the rent. Lucy then froze as a pair of dark boxers floated over the chair, landing smack on her face. The 3 males and 1 cat now found themselves sitting on the street, Naruto poking fun at Natsu and Gray, being the only one who escaped a beating from the slight girl. After living with Sakura for so long, dodging, or at least, attempting to dodge, furious female punches was just as ingrained into his defenses as blocking with a kunai was. It took a while, but eventually Lucy came wandering out, her eyes closed in frustration as she locked the door behind her. Tucking the key away safely into her belt, she turned and sighed. Honestly, it's bad enough you two came, but Naruto? I thought you'd be more mature about that. Looking up innocently, Naruto pointed at Natsu. He said he visits all the time. How was I meant to know you didn't like it? Glaring at him for a moment, Lucy nodded. Well, alright. But just this once I'll let you off. Walking between them, Lucy ended up by the river that ran past her house and stretched. So, what are we doing today? Natsu jumped up, eyes blazing as an idea sprung to mind. I know. How about we go challenge Urza to a fight? I could totally beat her this time around. Looking at him worriedly, Lucy wondered about his mental state. Gray just smirked and looked up. Really? You do remember the time before? And the time before that? And the time before that? Natsu just grinned and slammed a fist into his palm. Nah, I'll definitely win this time. I can feel it. Shrugging, Gray rose to his feet. Might as well go watch. It's always entertaining watching Natsu get his head kicked in. Lucy, Naruto. You comin'? Lucy nodded hesitantly after a moment, but Naruto shook his head. Nah, I gotta go check on some stuff. I'll come around later. Suit yourself. You're missing out on a free laugh, but, hey! I already said I'd win. I'll believe it when I see it. Fine. Happy, let's go. Dashing off down the street, Natsu went in search of Urza while Gray and Lucy finished up with Naruto. So you're sure you don't want to come? Shaking his head again, Naruto held his hands out apologetically. No, I really do need to check on these things. Catch you later, yeah. Nodding, the two bid their goodbyes and left, Lucy waving over her head a while longer than Gray. Sighing as he watched them leave, Naruto turned and started running. Heading out of town, Naruto slowed to a stop once clear of prying eyes and calmed himself. Quickly drawing on the natural energy, Naruto felt himself fill with the power surrounding him and opened his eyes. A quick check around verified no one was watching and he took off again, double his previous speed. Heading for the beacon of chakra he had left behind, Naruto frowned. He was becoming too attached to the people here and the peace. It was a lovely holiday and almost everyone here were wonderful people, but there were pressing matters at home he just couldn't ignore. Who knew what happened after the whole pain episode? He still had that unresolved thing with Hinata too. Jumping over a tree, Naruto landed easily and began cutting through the forest, bypassing the path in favor of a straight line. He just wished he knew how Kakashi-sensei's Kamui, authority of the gods, worked. Did it just send his targets to this one dimension? Or were there multiple dimensions? Did he even have control over where they were sent? These were just 3 questions Naruto wished he could answer, and he guessed there were heaps of others that he hadn't thought of. Pondering these thoughts, Naruto reached his destination within 15 minutes, skidding to a stop beside the still airborne blue mist. Nothing had changed except the amount of the stuff, Kakashi's chakra a good deal smaller than when he visited last. Now that he was here though, there wasn't a lot Naruto could do that he hadn't already tried. So sitting down, Naruto deactivated Senjutsu, sage techniques, closed his eyes and began to think. So, What now? This is like my only way home. How am I meant to follow Kakashi's chakra into infinity? Alright Naruto, consider your options. What can I do that might open it up? Kakashi's chakra is one thing. But how would I use it to open the hole? Maybe I could use it to crack a new hole beside it. Or, I don't know. Seals, perhaps? It could work, but I don't think I know enough yet, probably should have listened more to Ero Sennin. So that could work, but with a lot of studying, but then, maybe. Opening his eyes, Naruto found himself in the sewer of his mind. Looking around, he frowned. When did I get dragged in here? Turning to the familiar foul tunnel, Naruto began walking. The oppressive chakra mass he had been captive to his whole life steadily grew as he neared the end. Finally reaching the entrance, Naruto turned and looked up at the massive cage now before him. What do you want? A deep rumbling growl echoed through the cavern as a pair of enormous bloodshot eyes opened and focused on him. They moved closer to the bars of the cage and dropped so they were only a mere 20 feet above his head. Thin lips then pulled back, revealing a mouth packed full of gleaming white teeth as the demon began to speak. Brat, you know what I always want. To get this thrice damned seal off my cage. And I was so close, so close. Slamming its head against the bars in a momentary loss of temper, the whole room shook from the power of the blow, a loud boom echoing down the surrounding tunnels. To think that your pathetic Hokage managed to seal me yet again. But enough of that. I've been trying to contact you, but it seems I haven't been able to get through till now. It must have something to do with the Titan seal. What I want to know is what this putrid chakra you've been filling my realm with is. Frowning, Naruto looked around. Nothing seemed different. What are you on about? Nothing's different. Growling again, the fox shivered in barely constrained rage. Don't mock me, human. You damn well know what I mean. Ever since that incompetent sensei of yours managed to teach you his senjutsu, sage techniques, you fill this place with natural energy. Recently, however, this new undesirable natural energy floods the place. Holding his hands out, Naruto looked around again. But where is this energy? Finally losing it, the fox lashed out, slamming its massive head against the cage wall. Are you honestly that dense? Activate that senjutsu, sage techniques, of yours and draw the energy in here. Frowning as he was scolded, Naruto looked away and began to draw upon the nature around him. While he wasn't one to usually listen to the demon's demands, this one made him curious. When he felt the levels even out, Naruto's eyes widened in surprise as the fox spat off to the corner, its fur bristling as its energy warded off the invading energy. This is what I want to know. What is this? Looking around in awe, Naruto shook his head. I really don't know. The actual reason for Naruto's awe and the fox's discomfort was floating in the air around them. A soft gold light had flooded the place, denser amounts here and there clumping together to produce brighter spots that vaguely resembled little stars. All in all, it was quite beautiful. The fox, however, seemed to think otherwise. Well, find out. This is nothing like the normal energies I'm used to. Its presence disgusts me, not to mention it keeps trying to enter me. Snarling, the Kyuubi unleashed a powerful wave of chakra which bowled Naruto head over heels as it tried to force the gold light back. Landing against the far wall, he looked up at the Kyuubi in a daze. Find out what this stuff is and then tell me what you find. I will not be contaminated by it. Naruto shook his head as he cleared the last of the stars. But why do you hate it so much? It feels normal, doesn't it? Casting an eye around the room, the fox shook its fur. I never trust what I do not yet know. Now will you tell me about this when you find out, or will I have to drag it from you? Ignoring the threat, Naruto realized this could be an opportunity to find a way home. Alright, but I want something in return. I'll find out what this is, and when I do, you help me find a way back home. Deal? Frowning, the fox looked at him. Home? Naruto nodded. I've been transported to some weird new dimension far from the elemental nations. I have no idea how to get back though, and I really need to. The fox nodded as it understood the situation. So that's what happened earlier. This won't be easy with you being limited to but 3 dimensions, but I wish to stay in this wretched dimension even less than you do. You have yourself an accord. Grinning up at the fox, Naruto stood. Good. I'll go talk with Mira-chan now and see if I can clear this up. You be okay to hold this off a little longer? Blasting out another shockwave, Naruto covered his face as the power of the demon buffered him. Do not mock me, vermin. Get out of my sight and uphold your end of the bargain. Not wishing to agitate the beast any more than he should, Naruto merely closed his eyes and faded from sight. Coming to, Naruto looked down at his hands and opened and clenched them several times. Despite his secret amusement at the fox's hatred of the odd gold light, Naruto found it incredibly fascinating. It didn't feel too much different from the natural energy of his world, but whatever it was seemed to want to merge with the fuzz bag. Standing, Naruto looked at the slowly circling ball of chakra hanging in the air. Standing here wouldn't solve anything, so turning, Naruto leapt to the nearest tree and kicked off into the air. Mira-chan! Mira-chan! I got some questions for you. Bounding into the mess hall, Naruto avoided the flying tables with ease as he ran around the growing bar fight, heading for where he knew the white-haired woman worked. Skidding to a stop in front of the bar, Naruto belted a chair clean out of the air from behind him without even looking back. Mira-chan! Laughing, she walked over, drying her hands on a towel. Yes, Naruto, I heard you the first 2 times. What can I do for you? Pointing at the mess behind him, Naruto raised his voice over the growing noise. Can we go outside quickly? I really need to ask you some questions. Smiling apologetically, Mira gestured to the dirty bar and the patrons waiting to be served. I'm sorry, but I have work that can't be left. Maybe later. Shaking his head, Naruto pushed on. But what if you could have some help, just while you're gone? Ah. I suppose that could work. Woo! Crossing his fingers, 3 female clones appeared beside him, all dressed in skimpy maid outfits. Quickly getting to work, the fight behind them quickly fell apart as the men realized their favorite barmaid was back, and in greater quantity too. Grabbing Myra's hand, Naruto pulled her over the bench top and then ran with her up and out of the room, the girl laughing all the way. Entering the main hall, Naruto spotted a clear table and aimed for it. Helping Mira-Jane into her seat, Naruto dropped down in front of her, grinning happily. Sighing at his boisterousness, Mira folded her hands on the table. So what is it you have to ask me? Now actually confronted with the question, Naruto paused as he considered how he should word it. He couldn't just out and say, hey, there's a big demon fox in my gut and he wants to know what the glowing light inside my head is. So frowning, he slowly trod around the question. Well, I'm actually wondering what is up with the energy here. In my home dimension, I have learned how to absorb nature energy to boost certain areas of myself, like strength and endurance. However, everything here feels different. The energy in the atmosphere is, I dunno, just different. And, I also went inside my own mind while meditating before, and saw it filled with this golden light. Would you have any idea what that could be? Frowning as Naruto explained, Mira chewed on the inside of her mouth for a moment. So, you can actually pull the energy of nature into yourself? Naruto nodded. But otherwise it isn't in there naturally? Naruto shook his head. No. A problem with learning this actually comes from being overwhelmed by the natural energy. Lose yourself to it and you turn into a toad statue. Myra's eyes widened when she heard this. Really? That's odd. Tell me about that later though. You also say you can enter your mind. How do you mean? Scratching his head, Naruto struggled for an answer. Well, actually, it's more like a giant room I guess. I sometimes go down there, but not much. But yeah, while I was there, I drew in some of the natural energy and yeah, the room then filled with gold light. Still not quite understanding the room explanation, Mira let it go. The gold light though, she knew what that most probably was. She just had to identify something first. Naruto, this chakra you are always talking about. Where does it come from? Scratching his head, Naruto frowned. Well, inside me. I generate it and stuff. We were told exactly how in academy, but that was so boring I slept through it. Or flicked boogers at the teacher. Why's that though? Mira held up a hand. I'll answer in a second. So you say that this chakra comes from within? That there isn't any other chakra in the air or anything like that? Naruto looked up in thought. Well, no, I don't think so. At least, I can never remember anyone saying so. Nodding, Mira was fairly sure what everything was now. Okay, I think I can help you now. You say that your chakra is created inside you. Well, us mages, we can't do that. We actually absorb it from the atmosphere in the form of something called ether nano. We store that in a container within ourselves, and that then is what we call upon to create our magic. Naruto pursed his lips as he digested the information. So you say that everyone who lives here is a mage because everyone's power is in the air? Mira shook her head. No, only about 10% of the population is able to actively use magic. It takes a great deal of concentration and will to use magic. Oh. A smile slipped onto Naruto's face though when an idea crossed his mind. Hey, seeming I can pull this stuff into me, does that mean I could learn magic? Mira's eyes lit up in thought. Well, I suppose you might be able to. I doubt it though. You have to be born with the ability. Not ready to let go of that idea just yet, Naruto started jiggling around, his infectious smile shining brightly. Hey, could you show me how anyway, just in case I can? Please. 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 Rolling her eyes, Mira sighed. Fine, I suppose so. Where do you want to try? Standing, Naruto started walking to the door. I really like that big open plain out behind the city. Can we go there? Frowning, Mira shook her head. That's a bit far. It'd take us too long. Grinning, Naruto stuck his tongue out. Nah, I can get us there quick. Like, within a minute or two, or maybe 5. But still. Please. Raising an eyebrow, Mira studied him. He didn't seem to be lying. How would you do that exactly? Swooping in, Naruto swept the girl off her feet and picked her up bridal style. And Naruto. What are you doing? Laughing, Naruto ran to the door. Just watch, this is how. And with a startled scream from Mira, Naruto launched the two of them high above the roofs with a mighty jump. Landing a few minutes later, Naruto landed and dropped his passenger, who was still laughing after the exhilarating experience. That was amazing. I've never seen anyone travel like that. Stepping back, Naruto scratched his head happily. Yeah, well, that's how all us ninja travel around my village. So yeah, back to my training. Shaking her head at the insatiable boy, Mira sighed. Alright, well first, enter this energized state you have been telling me about. Nodding, Naruto stilled. It took a few moments, but he opened his eyes revealing the transformation. Staring intently into his eyes, Mira gasped softly as she took an unconscious step forward. Wow, this is a byproduct of this state. Your eyes though, they look so much like a frog's. And the eye shadow, beautiful. Naruto started looking around awkwardly as Mira edged ever closer, her hand reaching out to touch his orange-rimmed eyelids. Coughing, he tried to smile. Yeah, they're more like a toad's. It's called senjutsu, sage techniques. Realizing her close proximity, Mira blinked a few times before blushing and stepping back, a hand on her face. Oh, please excuse me, I do get carried away sometimes. So. Time to practice. Seeing Naruto nod eagerly, Mira giggled. Magic is a physical embodiment of the spirit. First thing you need to do is reach out with your spirit and touch the flow of energy within you. Can you do that? Frowning, Naruto closed his eyes as he internally reached around. I'm trying, what's next? Mira hummed as she thought. Well, after that, it kind of just happens. Whatever you're naturally affiliated with will most likely happen. Like with Natsu and his flames. Not responding, Naruto continued to dig around inside himself, desperately trying to touch his spirit with the energy filling his body. Mira fell quiet as she watched him struggle, rather impressed with how determined Naruto was to obtaining a magical ability. As he worked, Mira slowly became aware of a hint of something in the air. She couldn't quite put her finger on what it was, but it felt familiar. It quickly faded however, leaving Mira with a slight hint of disappointment. Naruto seemed to grow fidgety after this and within a few moments, opened his eyes. Sighing in frustration, Naruto scratched his head. Nah, nothing. And here I was getting all excited too. Shrugging, Mira smiled at him comfortingly. Well, anyone who can use magic is born with it. I thought you may have been an exception, what with you being able to draw it in, but I guess not. I thought I felt something there for a moment, but it turned out to be nothing. Widening his eyes, Naruto looked at her. Really? I didn't feel anything. Mira sighed. Ah well, not to worry. You can do a lot of things most of us can do anyway, such as transform, so there's nothing to be ashamed of. Grumping to himself, Naruto begrudgingly accepted the fact that magic looked like it was impossible for him. Didn't mean he wouldn't try again later though. Looking to liven up the mood, Mira smiled and tapped his shoulder. Come on, chin up. Anyway, I just had an idea, you should totally start a daily dairy. Looking at her with an unimpressed glance, Naruto raised an eyebrow. Isn't that stuff for girls? I got better things to be doing with my time. Frowning, Mira stood back, hands on her hips. I'll have you know it is not girly. My brother Elfman has one, and he's the manliest guy in the whole guild. Naruto raised an eyebrow. That massive human is your brother? I suppose it makes sense though, he does have your hair. Nodding once, Mira then walked up to him and poked his chest. That's right, and he does write a diary and now so will you. Take me back to the guild and we'll get started. She then jumped, fully trusting Naruto to catch her in his arms. Shouting out in surprise, he just grabbed her and looked down at the smug girl. What's wrong with you? I could have dropped you. Shrugging, Mira looked up at him with a wide smile. But you didn't, did you? You're such a gentleman. Grumbling to himself, Naruto started running before taking a large leap and soaring to the roofs. Within a few minutes from the initial suggestion, Naruto was now seated before a little book with Mira hovering over him. Come on, just write down something, anything. Who knows, you do this and it may help you find a way home. Naruto pouted at the gentle pressuring and crossed his arms with a huff. But I don't wanna. Grabbing a cheek, Mira squealed softly and shook his face. Aw, you are so cute. Come on Naruto, you can do this. For me. It was then Naruto realized just how deadly this woman could be. Upon turning to look up at her in annoyance, Naruto was subjected to the most wide, starry-eyed look of all time. Her mouth was curled up in a tiny smile while both hands were clasped beneath her chin in the most endearing way. Any future complaints instantly died on his tongue after a few moments of being subjected to the look. It was near impossible to resist, and Naruto couldn't help but wonder just what this girl had been doing to practice such a devastating technique. Turning and beginning to write, Naruto couldn't help but wonder if he'd be able to get Naruto to make the same face. Finishing off scribbling, Naruto dropped the pen, closed the book and stood up. Turning to Mira, he held it out. Here you go, you hold on to it if you so desperately want me to keep writing in it. I'd shred it within a day. Smiling, Mira took it and slipped it down her top. Naruto instantly froze and stared at where it disappeared, wondering how the book managed to get so lucky. Patting it, Mira then winked at Naruto. I'll find you tomorrow and we can work on it from there. Now scoot, I have work to do. Watching the extremely friendly woman slowly turn and stroll away, Naruto shook his head. That girl was a mystery. It seemed like she enjoyed seeing Naruto flustered. Must be why she was Fairy Tail's cover girl. Evil woman. Remembering his deal with the Kyuubi, Naruto ran outside and jumped into the guild roof. Settling himself, he closed his eyes and let his consciousness fade. You're back sooner than I expected. What have you found? Standing before his inner demon again, Naruto grinned up at it. What, you didn't think I'd follow through with my end? And here I thought you knew all about me. Sniffing, the massive fox shook itself. If there was ever one mildly passable quality about you, it's that you can keep a promise. Now tell me what I want to know. Raising an eyebrow at the Kyuubi, Naruto took the compliment without any further mention. He then frowned as he struggled to remember what Mira-Jane explained to him. Alright, apparently this dimension has a different form of natural energy. The gold stuff floating around was actually something called, damn, what did she call it? Eat. Eternano. I think. Somehow it's connected with these people being able to create magic. Something to do with their spirit reaching out and touching the energy. Raising a furry brow, the fox looked down at him. Is that what you were doing before? Naruto nodded. Yeah, I tried making magic but it didn't work. Mira-chan said she felt something briefly but it disappeared shortly after. The fox snorted. Of course she did, you went and started tapping into my own reserves, you stupid creature. How could you not notice? Eyes widening, Naruto realized his mistake. I thought I was only tapping the Eternano though. The fox rolled its enormous eyes. Trust you to make that mistake. You must have defaulted to my chakra. Fool. Ignoring the snip, Naruto tipped his head to the side as he thought. So, now that you know what this is, would you try allowing some into you? It doesn't change me when I use it. It just feels different. The fox shook its head. No. I'm quite content with my own substantial power. I need no additives from some pathetic world. Shrugging, Naruto let the fox think what it wanted. Whatever then. I guess you'll start working on figuring out a way home now then. Snorting, the fox nodded. I'll have a better chance of working something out than you with your limited thinking. Leave me now and let me work. I shall contact you if anything comes to mind. Do not disturb me before then. Nodding, Naruto turned and slowly faded from view. Opening his eyes, Naruto became aware of a commotion below. His ears tuned into Natsu screaming indignantly about something while some hushed whispers ran through the gathered crowd. Crawling to the edge, the blonde poked his head over the gutter and looked down. His eyes widened in surprise when he saw what looked like a swamp-green frog dressed in official-looking robes holding out a piece of paper. The top view of it wasn't all that great a position to gauge what was going on, so sliding to the shadowed side on the building, Naruto slipped down and landed softly on the outskirts of the group. 11 charges of property damage. Urza Scarlet, you are under arrest. Tucking away her last name in his memory, Naruto frowned as the group let out a unified gasp. Taking another look at the frog, he could now see it was wearing this thin blue top hat thing that sat tall and proud in the middle of its head. It had this blue, long-sleeved overcoat on with a white robe beneath it, stretching all the way to the ground and covering its feet. Rolling up the piece of paper, it tucked it away and motioned to the horse-drawn carriage behind it. If you would please come quietly, I believe it would be in both our best interests. Like hell I'll just let you up and take Urza in the middle of our fight. Natsu exploded into flame and made to attack the frog, but was quickly smothered by several other guild members that dog-piled him into the ground to prevent him doing anything stupid. That didn't stop the creative flow of curses flowing from his mouth however. Ignoring the mess, Naruto checked out the carriage. It only had 2 guards by it, so they obviously didn't expect much resistance from the strong woman. Frowning, Naruto crept over to it. Something like this would normally warrant a few more guards at least, especially with the reputation Urza seemed to have. The frog turned and began walking, fully expecting Urza to follow. A number of indignant voices began rising from the crowd as it left, asking for more information. Natsu's was easily the loudest, followed surprisingly by Kana. She may have been an alcoholic, but it seemed she had a fierce sense of loyalty. Enough! Let them take Urza for now, we shall find out more in the future. For now, everyone back inside the guild. Elfman, bring Natsu with you. Hearing the short man's powerful voice break through the rising noise, Naruto watched as the group quickly fell silent before they started shuffling inside. Natsu was the only one who kept screaming indignantly, struggling to free himself from under Elfman's massive arm. Shaking his head, Naruto allowed a small smile onto his face. Natsu reminded him so much of when he was younger. Turning back to the carriage, he saw the guards holding the doors open as Urza neared. Quickly glancing around, Naruto brought his hands together in the ram seal. Henge, transform. A pull of smoke went up and a tiny lizard shot towards Urza. Dashing in, it jumped onto her shoe without notice, riding it up and into the wagon with her. Inside the guild, everyone had sat down at a table and for once, were completely silent. No one had expected this turn of events. No one could understand why the council was arresting Urza for property damage, especially after she and her group had managed to save the guild masters. The only noise anyone could hear was Natsu's muffled screams from under a glass cup, the young mage having been turned into a tiny dragon and restrained. Mikao and Wakaba sat over by the back of the room stewing silently at the injustice. How could the council slap something like that on Urza? It's just not right. Taking a deep breath through his pipe, Wakaba blew the resulting smoke stream into the air above his head. No, it's not. But even if you're innocent, if the council says you're guilty, you're guilty. Closing his eyes, Mikao sighed unhappily. This shouldn't be allowed. I can't see how a small group of people has power like that. Wakaba nodded. Too right. I would have run in there with everyone else to get her back if Master hadn't said stop. Mikao looked to the roof, the air above them hazy from his friend's smoke. I know. Poor Lucy seems to be taking it hard too. Urza was something of an idol to her. Looking across, Wakaba grimaced. I hope she doesn't get too down on it though. It wouldn't be healthy. The girl in topic was up at the bar, her head resting on the bench top, her body limp and unresponsive. Mira Jane dotted about worriedly as she tried to lift her spirits. Come now Lucy, don't worry too much about this. This is Urza we're talking about. If anyone can handle this, it's her. From the bench, Lucy shook her head. It's not that I'm unhappy about, it's that they singled her out for the punishment. Natsu, Gray, Naruto and even myself and Levi had a hand in the damage. So why should she face it alone? Sighing, Mira looked down at the girl and smiled. With an attitude like that, we can be sure she'll make it home. Our thoughts make her strong. She'll be back before you know it. Looking up at her gratefully, Lucy nodded. Yeah, I guess so. It's just tough waiting. Sitting up, Lucy stretched and then looked around. Hang on, where's Naruto? He seemed so much like Natsu that I'd have thought he'd be creating just as much of a fuss. Looking around, Mira nodded. Come to think of it, I haven't seen him for a while. Master, do you have any idea where he could be? Opening one eye, the old man looked over at them from his seat on the bench top. Who? Naruto. Grunting, Makarov closed his eye. How should I know? He's not a part of the guild or anything. Rolling her eyes, Mira got back to rubbing a cup. It seemed that was his response to anything about the blonde. She had a bit of an idea that Makarov did know what he was doing, just chose to ignore it. Turning, the white-haired girl busied herself with cleaning up the never-ending mess at the bar in an effort to keep her mind on other things. Bouncing along gently, Urza sighed as she looked out the barred windows. She had no idea what was happening, but wasn't too worried about it. Hearing a scuttle of tiny feet, Urza looked down and saw a little lizard looking up at her curiously. Smiling, she reached out and scratched its head. How did you get in here? You won't like where we're going. The lizard turned a head to the side so it could look up at her. Where are we going though? All I know is you've been arrested for a bunch of smashed stuff. Raising an eyebrow, Urza retracted her hand and studied the creature for a few moments. Naruto. Running up onto her lap, the lizard nodded. Yeah, I'd change back, but I don't think the guards would like it all that much. So where we headed then? Rolling her eyes, Urza shook her head. No, what's more important is what you are doing here. You should be back at the guild. The lizard cum Naruto laughed. Why? I'm not a part of the guild. Makarov can't tell me to do anything. Even then, I'd still come. I wouldn't let a friend get taken away for something stupid. Laughing, Urza started scratching Naruto's head again. Well, thank you then. The company is nice. Falling quiet, the two then just enjoyed the motion of the carriage as it bumped around. After a little while though, Urza heard a strange soft noise coming from her lap. Looking down, she saw Naruto had his eyes closed and was resting his head on her leg. Realizing he was snoring, Urza chuckled softly to herself and kept scratching his head. Opening his eyes, Naruto stretched. Looking around, he saw he was in a small brown room. The hell? A bump sent him onto his side and he scrambled back to his feet. Realizing he still had 4 of them, Naruto raised an eyebrow. That was unusual. Looking up, he saw a glint of light. Crawling up, he poked his head out the top and looked around. Right above him was a large amount of red hair flowing down someone's back, the well-kept tresses conforming perfectly to the body beneath as the girl walked. He realized it was Urza. She must have dropped him in her pocket after he fell asleep. Taking his eyes off her, Naruto took a look around the place they were in now. It appeared to be a massive walkway, with huge great pillars off to his right, stretching way up to meet a roof high above his head. To his left were doors that lead to mystery rooms, the wood surrounding them ornately trimmed in gold and silver. Above that were enormous cubes of granite and marble, each looking like it weighed about 3 tons. All in all, it looked very much like a palace, and Naruto instantly got the feeling that whoever worked here was very rich, or powerful, or most likely, both. Feeling a bump, Naruto looked around and realized they had stopped. The frog thing had knelt down and Urza had visibly tensed. Frowning, he crawled back into the bum bag and waited. A smooth male voice reached his ears, but was too soft for him to really make anything out. Urza was much louder though, seemingly accusing whoever it was of setting this whole thing up. Listening closer, Naruto began to hear the man as he walked up to stand beside Urza. The old council men feared they would share the blame of Lullaby, so decided to push it onto someone else. You ended up being their scapegoat. Physically tensing, Naruto had to hold on tight as Urza whirled around to face this guy. Shut up. I do not need you here to tell me this. Naruto could almost feel the man shrug. Whatever. I was just coming to warn you before the trial. His voice then dropped to a whisper and Naruto nearly missed his parting words. Don't say anything about our pasts though, okay? For both our sakes. Hearing his steps fade, Naruto frowned. Who was this guy? He clearly had something to do with Urza's past, and if the small amount Naruto had heard was anything to go by, it probably wasn't anything good. Feeling the woman start walking, Naruto settled down and waited. We will now begin this mage's trial. Urza Scarlet, in regards to Eisenwald and Lullaby, you are accused with causing massive damage to Ashibana Station, the damage of the Ryusuke Gorge Railway and the destruction of the Guild Master's meeting call in Clover. According to witnesses at the scene, the culprit was an armored female. How do you plead? Bugger this. Jumping out of the pouch, Naruto landed on the ground with a splat. Running back a bit, he released his transformation and exploded back to normal. He grinned internally at the shocked gasps of the old people conducting this pathetic trial. Stepping forward, he pointed at Urza. She pleads not guilty. He thrust a thumb to himself. I destroyed just as much as she did. Probably even more, Databeo. The magistrate looked down condescendingly at the boy. Who are you? What are you doing here? Naruto frowned up at the man. Who cares? I am who I am, and I am here to take at least half the blame from Urza. Looking over the two, the man called out to the guards. Get this nuisance out of here immediately. Sir! Rushing forward, the guards each grabbed one of Naruto's arms and began pulling. Despite their strong pulls though, Naruto didn't budge an inch. He didn't even recognize their efforts as he kept shouting. How can you old farts go blaming something like this on her? She didn't do anything wrong. Would you rather have every guild master dead instead of a broken house? Turning to face Naruto, Urza sent him a dark look. Turning back to the council, she bowed. I apologize for the interruption. Instantly having the wind taken from his sails, Naruto faltered and looked at her incredulously. Say what? Sighing, the magistrate waved a hand at the two of them. Throw them in jail for the night. Naruto and Urza now leant against the walls of a stone jail cell. Urza was glaring darkly at Naruto and he was staring defiantly back. They hadn't said anything since they were thrown in and the tension was palpable. Eventually though, it was Urza who broke the silence. Why did you do that? Snorting, Naruto raised an eyebrow. What, jump in and try save you from a clearly biased trial? Oh, I dunno, maybe because it was completely bogus. Frowning, Urza shook her head. You heard what was said before. I was to have the blame laid on me and then freed. Naruto shrugged. I don't care. I won't stand for something cowardly like that. They need to man up and take the blame when they make a mistake. Sliding a hand over her face, Urza sighed. Now I feel like I'm sitting in here with Elfman. Look, it's not that I don't appreciate the gesture, and I'm honestly grateful you came, but things would have gone so much smoother if you hadn't jumped in. Crossing his arms, Naruto looked away rebelliously. I still don't care. Realizing she wouldn't be able to change his mind, Urza shook her head. You're impossible. They then fell silent for a bit, more relaxed after hanging everything out to dry though, so it wasn't as uncomfortable as before. Looking out the window at the moon, Naruto sighed. Remembering something, Naruto looked over at Urza. So, that guy who confronted you in the hall. What was that he was talking about? The redhead visibly stiffened when Naruto mentioned this. She looked across awkwardly and worried her lower lip. I wasn't aware you were awake at that time. Naruto nodded apologetically. Sorry, but you bumped me awake. So, what was that? Looking down at her hands, Urza played with the gauntlets over her fingers. She took a moment but eventually replied. I'd actually rather not talk about it if that's alright. Just some things I'd rather not remember. Frowning, Naruto stared at her but let her be. As he sat though, Naruto suddenly felt a strong pull at his mind and he found his attention being pulled internally. Human. For the death god's sake, can you hear me yet? Yes, what's your issue? He heard the fox grumble in his head. You are too stupid to even realize when I'm trying to tell you something. I was contemplating how to get home when I felt an anomaly within the vicinity. Can you see anything? Standing, Naruto went to the barred window and looked out. Squinting, Naruto could vaguely make out a strange blue glow in the distance. Yeah, I can see something in the sky. Is that it? The fox growled lowly. Perhaps. It felt like a dimensional pull, Much like what happened with that cretin who sent you here in the first place, just nowhere near as strong. Get over there now and monitor it." Turning to look back at Urza, Naruto sighed. He didn't really know how he was going to break this to her. The girl seemed to detect his discomfort and looked over. "What is it?" Frowning, Naruto pointed out the window. "I can feel something that feels a lot like what brought me here. I really want to go check it out." Rising to her feet, Urza walked over and squinted out over the distance. Seeing the blue light, she nodded. "It seems that it may be a way home for you. Go, investigate it. Don't worry about me, I'll be released in the morning." Naruto grinned. "Sweet. I'll leave a clone behind so the guards don't get suspicious." Urza nodded approvingly. "That would be a good idea. We wouldn't want to create a scene." Naruto chuckled. "Yeah, nothing more than we already have." Generating a clone, he brought his hands together in a ram seal and disappeared, place now occupied that little lizard again. Running up the wall, he reached the window. Hearing Urza though, Naruto paused. "Good luck." Smiling as best he could, Naruto nodded once and disappeared outside. Chapter 10. Landing softly outside the massive building, Naruto looked up into the distance and saw that the blue light seemed to be shrinking gradually. Almost feeling the beast within his stomach raging about in an effort to make him hurry up, Naruto sprinted off towards the light in a large billow of dust. Dashing through the moonlit landscape, Naruto swerved around large trees and rocks in wide arcs, trying to keep as much forward momentum up as possible. The rolling, silver hills sped past, contrasting eerily with the massive black mountains far beyond that. Blue eyes sparkled as Naruto jumped into a large tree, kicking powerfully off it and sending him sailing high into the air. From his vantage point, Naruto frowned as he saw the distance yet to be covered. With the pace he was currently running compared to how the light was shrinking, it was unlikely he'd make it in time. Landing, Naruto didn't lose a second of time as he continued his mad dash toward his goal. Jumping a small creek, Naruto looked to the mountain that lay close to where the light shone. It still looked to be several miles away, but that could vary a considerable amount due to the low light. Reaching the top of another mellow hill, Naruto could see a long stretch of clear ground and had an idea. Shunshin, body flicker, involved the user channeling chakra to the extremities and allowing the body a great deal of speed over a distance equal to the amount of chakra used. Now, Naruto lost more chakra than most people had in the first place when performing a simple Bunshin no Jutsu, clone technique, so by using that logic, it meant he should be able to jump much further distances than the average shinobi too. So forming a half-ram seal, Naruto brought his ocean of chakra forth and unleashed it into his body. The world around him instantly blurred and stretched as the usual tunnel vision began to affect his vision. He strained his eyes to try keep up with everything, but was totally unprepared for the solid connection he made with the stone face as it rushed up to meet him. Falling backwards from the large hole he made in the solid surface, Naruto wheezed as the air was knocked from him, blood squirting from his nose after being squashed between two very hard surfaces. Dust billowed out from around him, a loud chattering of night animals arising from the dull boom, rather startled by the impact. Lying dazed on the ground for a moment, Naruto heard the soft screams of the Kyuubi in the back of his mind to get up. Pushing himself up, he cracked his nose back into alignment and looked up. A large hill now stood before him, a whole lot closer than he expected. Looking over his shoulder, he took a guess at how far he had jumped and raised an eyebrow. He'd seen it but hadn't thought to avoid it as it was close to a kilometer away. Scratching to the top of it, Naruto grinned as he saw he was a great deal closer to the light. Using his newfound knowledge and a little caution in the power of his jumps, Naruto used Shunshin, body flicker, to make it to the mountains in a matter of minutes. Landing solidly at the base, Naruto heard the dull cry from the Kyuubi inside him to climb up. Scaling the cliff face easily, Naruto reached the top as the source of the blue light spread its tendrils across his face. Looking out over the valley, Naruto's eyes widened. The whole area was bathed in the unearthly deep blue, the shadows of trees and rocks dancing around as the light above flickered around wildly. The actual light itself seemed to be coming from a strange opening in the clouds above, a deep black hole creating a whirlpool in the milky blue clouds as they spun lazily around it. Occasional flickers of blue lightning shot out from the center of it, licking the surrounding vapors teasingly. As Naruto turned his gaze down though, he spotted a single man with his arms upstretched towards the sky, several strange-looking staves embedded handle first into the ground surrounding him. From the way his hands were shaking, it looked like he was battling against the sky above. Focusing on this person, Naruto jumped over the cliff edge and began sliding down the outside of it before jumping off and running towards the person. Oi! You there! Hey, what is that thing? The man glanced at Naruto before shifting a hand out in his direction. One of his staves seemed to glow blue around the tip and suddenly Naruto was hit by a massive wave of drowsiness. Staggering, Naruto felt his eyes drooping as he saw the man turn back to look at the sky. Trying to wake his sleepy mind, Naruto frowned. Genjutsu, illusionary techniques? Bringing a lazy hand up in a half-ram seal, Naruto muttered under his breath, Kai, release. Instantly the spell was broken and Naruto was able to stand glaring at the man. Naruto raised a fist menacingly. Oi, what did you go and do that for? I just asked you a question. The man seemed to gasp and turned to look at him again. Getting a proper look at him now, Naruto raised an eyebrow. The fellow before him was of an average height, but other than that he couldn't tell a single thing about him due to him being so wrapped up in clothing. A massive black cape hung down low over his body, mostly concealing the bandaged torso and massive bulging, black pants quite well. Bandages completely covered both arms and legs, even going all the way down to his feet, a simple pair of sandals being worn under that. A deep green cloth covered his lower face while a deep blue bandana covered his hair. There was even a plate on the front of it like what Naruto had on his forehead, only it had no village markings or otherwise engraved on it. As Naruto began cautiously approaching him, the man seemed torn between finishing his job and fleeing. He seemed more inclined towards fixing the sky though, so Naruto was able to get within a few feet before stopping. So, what is that? The man didn't answer, simply forcing his abilities to the limit in an effort to close the sky. Frowning at his lack of answer, Naruto glanced at the hole in the sky again. It was now almost completely gone. That thing feels like a dimensional rift. Did you create it? That comment finally broke the man's silence as he looked over, concern evident in his soft voice. Who are you? How did you know that? Still wary about the strange man, Naruto offered him a little information. Uzumaki Naruto. I know what it is because I know what it feels like. Uzumaki? Naruto nodded. Yeah, now tell me, did you make that? He saw a tiny shake of the head. No, I am closing it. Naruto eyed up the sky again. So, do you know what dimension that is? Or how to generate one? He waited a moment, but then grew to realize he was being ignored again. Looking down at the mysterious man, anger began burning behind his eyes. Oi! It's not nice to ignore someone. A simple yes or no is all I want, Dadabayo. Again he heard nothing and began bristling. Taking a step forward, Naruto looked to the sky as a deep rumble ran through the clouds. It seemed whatever had happened had stirred up the air currents upon closure and had drawn in rain. Looking back down, Naruto's eyes widened as he realized the weird man had already grabbed his stuff and started running. Oi! Wait up, Dadabayo! Dashing after his quarry, Naruto frowned as he made ground on him. While not anything near as fast as Naruto, this guy sure had some speed. Flashing in front of him, Naruto skidded to a stop as he cut off the man's escape route. Ignoring the first few cold drops of rain, Naruto glared into the tiny strip where he could see the strange mage's eyes. Alright, I won't ask you again. Do you know how to make one of those dimensional things? Pulling a staff from behind him, Naruto growled and dropped into a defensive stance. Oh, is that how you want to play? Fine, I'll beat the answer out of you. Charging in, Naruto tested the waters first with some simple taijutsu, body techniques, trying to break the man's guard. His standard right punch was easily deflected by the flat of the staff, the back of the thing spinning around causing Naruto to bring up his left arm to block the blow. Dipping his head, he guided the handle away, allowing himself to lift off the ground and kick out powerfully for his opponent's kidneys. The mage seemed to realize this just in time though as he jumped, avoiding the main impact of the hit, but still getting blown back from the residual force Naruto inflicted. Rolling back as he landed, the man then took the offensive and charged at Naruto. Thrusting his staff forward, Naruto swayed to the side, catching the wood under his arm and twisted sharply, wrenching it free from his grasp. Releasing it, Naruto let it fly away to embed tip first into the solid ground, humming slightly before falling mute from the ever-increasing rain. The match had now turned to fists and feet only, with Naruto and the strange mage exchanging blows at a rate Naruto had yet to see in this world. With the light as dim as it was too, Naruto was forced to keep his eyes peeled as sharp, powerful blows rained down on him from all directions. Gently guiding another fist past his face, Naruto retaliated with a sharp blow of his own, only to have it smack into a hurriedly raised forearm. Frowning at the movement, Naruto reasoned that this guy was leagues above Natsu in hand-to-hand combat techniques. That may have been cause for a good fight, but right now Naruto needed answers. Stepping it up by moving faster than the man could follow, Naruto caught an incoming right fist within his own left hand. Pulling the hand through, Naruto overextended the punch, bringing up a powerful fist into the bandaged stomach of his opponent. He let out a pained gasp, his legs going limp. Naruto wasn't finished however and twisted, readjusting his grip on the captured limb and swinging the mage up over his shoulder and slamming him hard into the ground behind him. A forced exhale shot from his opponent's mouth as the air was expelled from his lungs, leaving him breathless and weak. Swinging a leg over him, Naruto sat down forcefully on the man's stomach and ripped off his headgear. Under all that clothing, Naruto saw that the man was no older than 20. Spiky blue hair poked out at unruly angles, looking like it had never been tamed by a brush. Dark brown eyes were clenched up in pain, his right eye having a strange red tattoo above and below it. The bottom half looked much like a deformed candle holder, the top half more like a strange, simply designed vine. Looking down at him with a hard gaze, Naruto ignored the rain falling around him, focusing on the gasping man beneath him. "Alright. Now, tell me, what's your name and can you create that thing I saw before?" Wheezing, the man said nothing and looked away. Growling, Naruto bounced down hard on his gut, blowing the little amount of air he had regained straight back out again. "Answer me." Coughing painfully, the man finally looked up to him. Why do you want to know this? Calming a little now that contact had been made, Naruto settled for a frown. "Since you know about other dimensions, I guess you wouldn't be too shocked if I said I was from one." The man frowned and looked at Naruto's whiskered face. "I don't believe you. I have never seen you in either world before." Raising an eyebrow, Naruto pondered this. If what this guy said was true, then it meant that whatever dimension that was just closed wasn't his home. Naruto then knew for a fact that this guy had never been to the elemental nations before. So it seemed there was a third world floating around out there somewhere. Clearing his thoughts, Naruto shook his head. "No, I'm not from either of these worlds you're talking about. I'm from a completely different one. What I want to know is, are you able to open another portal like this, just to a completely different dimension?" The man's eyes opened slightly as he heard Naruto's story. "So you aren't from either Earthland or Etelos?" Naruto frowned. "I don't even know what worlds they are. I'm from a place called the Elemental Nations and I gotta find a way home as soon as I can." The man's eyes thinned. "You're currently in Earthland. Etelos is the parallel universe that runs beside it." Naruto shrugged. "Great. Now that I know where I am, I can totally tell my friends back home where I landed. Now, the important part. Can you generate one of those things?" Looking up at the sky, the mage shook his head. "No, it is generated from the other side by a machine. I can only close them." Sitting back in frustration, Naruto crossed his arms. "Well, that's just perfect. Do you know if it can open up portals to other worlds?" The man beneath him shrugged. "I don't know." Sighing, Naruto looked to the sky. "Well, can I somehow get sent there?" Dropping off to the side, Naruto was asleep before he hit the ground. Struggling to sit up, the blue-haired man grasped his stomach where Naruto had punched him. Wincing, he picked up the staff that was lodged in the ground only a few feet from them. Using it to pull himself up, he looked down at Naruto as he slept peacefully in the mud. "You might be able to get there, but I cannot let you go. I cannot let them harvest any magical power from here." Letting the heavy rain wash his clothes somewhat, the man turned and began limping away. Groaning, Naruto began to stir and rolled over. His senses seemed dull and he was vaguely aware of rocks poking into his skin as he moved. The insides of his eyelids grew bright as light touched them, further rousing him. Finally opening them, the first thing Naruto saw was a frog sitting in front of his face. It jumped away as Naruto pulled himself up, cringing as the corks in his muscles that the rocks had produced cried out. Looking around groggily, Naruto inspected the area. It wasn't all that much to look at. A couple of trees dropped around the area with tufts of rough grasses breaking up the rocky ground. Wondering how he got here, Naruto stood and looked to the sky. The remains of some rain clouds were drifting away, a bright blue sky being left behind. Frowning, Naruto scratched his head. Something was crying out to him in the back of his mind, trying to tell him what had happened, but it was just out of reach. Casting another look around the area, Naruto saw some dried scuff marks, the holes rounded out by the rain that had seemingly just cleared. This started bringing back memories of a fight with some weird guy. Looking off to his side, Naruto predicted that there would be a circular hole just beside him and was proven correct. Growling as the memories finally came back, Naruto spun around and kicked at a rock behind him. The object shattered around his foot, but he paid it no heed as he berated himself. Damn it, I was so close to answers and I go and drop my guard. What am I, an academy student? I could have been killed. Wake up to yourself, Naruto. Looking at the sun, Naruto guessed it was getting close to noon. The fight had been around about midnight last night, so that meant that Weird Mage had a good 12-hour head start. Cursing, he kicked another rock before calming himself. Getting cranky now wouldn't do any good. Feeling an unwanted tug at his mind though, Naruto groaned. From the way the sentences seemed to be flowing, the beast within seemed to have been shouting for a while now too. Pathetic excuse for a lumbering pile of rotting flesh. I mean, how can one being actually be so completely brainless? To be caught off guard like that while winning, I'd slit my own throat afterwards in shame. Oh, you can hear me finally, you useless meatbag? Naruto sighed. Yes, Kyubi, I can hear you. The voice of Massive Fox growled. Good, let me tell you now then that you have to be the most incompetent creature I have ever had the displeasure of not being able to squash between my toes. Naruto rolled his eyes. Thanks. I love you too, the Kyubi snorted. Don't try to attach an emotion you creatures created to a being of my status. Now, while you were dreaming of soft toys and cuddles, I tried to think of any other way to get your useless form back home. This rift your fellow meatbag spoke of seems like it's the most promising way of getting us home, so you have to find him. Do you think you can manage this, or will you just screw it up again? Naruto sighed again as the ever-flowing barrage of insults continued. Yes, I've got this. You just keep doing your thing and I'll keep doing mine. Hearing a satisfied grunt within the regions of his mind, Naruto realized he said something right for a change. Good. Now go hunt him down and don't talk to me again until you find him. So get moving. The Kyubi then shut off communications with a near-audible snap. Sighing, Naruto ran a hand through his hair and had another quick look around, but saw no tracks remaining of the mystery man. The rain hadn't helped preserve any either. Biting his inner lip, Naruto considered his options. Try chase the guy down, go back to Urza, or head back and look for clues at Fairy Tail. Chasing him down was all but impossible unless he was a specialist scouter, which he wasn't. Urza still had his clone, so it looked like he was homeward bound. Checking the sun for directions, Naruto turned and ran for the exit to the valley, cursing one more time as he left. Naruto? What are you doing outside? I thought you came back with Urza. Skidding to a stop outside the gates, Naruto looked over to see Kana relaxing in the sun, barrel of booze ever present by her side. Shaking his head, Naruto walked over. Nah, that was a clone. I had to go check something out. Would you know where old man Makarov is? I gotta ask him a question. Kana shrugged and lifted her barrel to her lips. Probably inside sitting on the counter like usual. Nodding his thanks, Naruto jogged inside, only to be sent flying by an airborne gray, sans clothes. Smacking into a pillar, they both slid to the ground before Naruto kicked Gray into the roof with a growl. What the hell are you doing? Watch out for people. Hearing an annoying laugh, Naruto looked over to see Natsu pointing at Gray as he hung over a truss. Ha! That's what you get for trying to badmouth my flames, blue balls. Turning to face the teen, Naruto leveled a gaze at him. Oi, does that mean you threw him at me? Looking at Naruto, Natsu grinned. Yeah, we tag-teamed him real good. Faster than most people could see, Naruto replaced Natsu's position and Natsu replaced part of the wall's position. Lowering his elbow, Naruto snorted at Natsu's twitching form embedded into the wall. Next time involve me at the beginning of the fight, not halfway through. Hearing a squeak of acceptance, Naruto turned and stomped towards the front, ignoring the chuckles from other guild members. Seeing the hideous blue and orange antenna hat, Naruto made his way over. Upon seeing him, the little man raised a hand in greeting. Yo, Naruto, you decided to come back? Slipping into a stool beside the master, Naruto grumbled to himself before speaking up. Yeah, I would have been home sooner if I hadn't slept for so long. Rolling a shoulder painfully at the memory of the hard ground, he continued. I actually want to ask you a question about someone. I fought this guy last night and the bastard put me to sleep with some magic thing. I thought you might know who he was. Raising an eyebrow, Makarov inclined his head slightly. Oh really? What did he look like? Frowning, Naruto recalled the memory. Well, when I first saw him, he was completely covered in bandages from his neck to his toes. Big baggy pants, weird head getup, big black cape, a bunch of big staff things. After I ripped that off though, he had this dull blue. That'll be enough Naruto, I know who you're looking for. Looking up at the old man as he quickly cut him off, Naruto widened his eyes. Really? Who is he? The master smirked. That would be Mystogan, a mage of this guild. You missed him by a couple of hours. Eyes widening further, Naruto stood up and slapped his palms to the desk. Really? He belongs to Fairy Tail. How much did I miss him by? Where did he go? Turning to look at the blonde leering over him, Makarov's eyes hardened. Why should I tell you anything about him? Leaning back, Naruto frowned. While in jail, I sensed a dimensional thing like what I came through. You can even ask Urza, she saw it. This guy, Mystogan, was there, closing it up for some reason. I tried asking him what it was but he wouldn't answer me. He tried running but I caught him. Long story short, we fought, I beat him, he answered one or two questions, then knocked me out with some stupid sleeping thing. Leaning back in, Naruto looked into the master's eyes. I must find him and work out what he's doing. Whatever that was may be my only hope of getting home. Hearing a laugh above him, Naruto looked up while Makarov let out a sigh. Another weakling butting around in Mystogan's business? Didn't I already tell the guild to keep their noses away from where it's not wanted? A sneering blonde man hung over the railings from above, staring down at Naruto. A jagged, lightning bolt-like scar ran down over his right eye, splitting his eyebrow in two. A pair of weird plastic ear muffs covered the sides of his head, seemingly stuck on by suction. A single metal spike stuck out from the center of each muff too. A dark overcoat covered his shoulders, trimmed with what looked like feathers of some kind. Beneath that, he wore a dirty green, long-sleeved button up top with darker, moss-green colored patches dotting the material. Taking a step back, Naruto frowned. Who are you? And why would you care? His grin widened as he stared down at the defiant ninja. Oh ho, we have ourselves a feisty noob. You picked up an interesting one this time around, Gramps. Gramps? Looking over at Makarov, Naruto raised an eyebrow. That guy up there is your grandkid? Ignoring Naruto, Makarov looked up at the man. Shut up, Laxus. He's not a part of the guild. Not my problem. Eyes widening, the newly named Laxus turned his attention back to Naruto. Not even a part of the guild, hey? What gives you the right to barge in and ask these questions then? Naruto glared up at the obnoxious man. Why would you care? You're obviously feeling way too good about yourself up there to even come down and ask me face to face. Flicking an eye to Makarov, Laxus smirked. Maybe you just don't have the guts to come up. Now, this completely chewed at Naruto the wrong way, but the glance the infuriating man shot at his grandfather hadn't eluded him. Neither had Makarov's eye now tracking his movements. Something was obviously wrong about that, and jumping up there could result in a serious fight. So taking a breath, Naruto calmed himself as much as possible and looked away from the man. His indignant snort did wonders for Naruto's peace of mind however and allowed him to get on with asking Makarov his questions. So, Makarov, can you tell me where Mystogan has gone? I need to find out if he has a way home for me. Staring at the boy for a while, the old man seemed to run the request around in his mind. Seeing this, Naruto laid on a little pressure. If he does, that just means I can go home sooner and that I'm out of your hair faster. The master never had a chance to answer though as a loud boom sounded out behind Naruto. Not even giving him the chance to move, a heavy blow caught the back of Naruto's neck and sent him rocketing across the bar, slamming into the wall behind with a massive crash. Laxus stood with his fist outstretched, an angry smile on his face. Didn't I tell you not to ask questions? You do well not to ignore me next time. A kunai however found itself against his throat from behind. Looking over at the mess in the wall, Laxus found it to somehow be the remains of a bar stool. Standing up on his tiptoes, Naruto spoke into his ear. I don't care for what you want. Grandkid of Makarov or not, I will beat you down if you try that again. If anything, the crazy man's grin widened. Enough. Looking over, the duo saw Makarov glaring at them. I will not stand for this kind of fighting in my guild. Snorting, Laxus broke free of Naruto's hold and in a burst of what looked like lightning, shot back up to the balcony above. Ignoring his ability, Naruto twirled the kunai around, slipping it back into its pouch smoothly. He then had to resist the urge to fidget as Makarov started talking. Naruto, I do not want to see any more fights of that type here, or else I'll be forced to ban you from the guild. However, I have considered your request and it seems like a very possible way for you to get home. Mystogan took a job over at Magic Mountain. Good luck catching him though. Turning, Naruto nodded his thanks before dashing out of the guild. He didn't even notice the complete absence of noise as he left, the ever-rowdy members shocked into a rare silence. Mira Jane then poked her head around from behind the corner of the bar, having come back from the little girl's room, looking at the hole in the wall, then at the silent guild, and then at the clearly agitated guild master. The woman pursed her lips. What happened? The master just grumbled something before grabbing his half-full cup beside him and downing the entire lot in a single mouthful. He then jumped off the bench top and walked away, muttering something about hot-headed youths these today. Hearing a thump beside her, the girl looked across and found Gray had dropped to the bench, sporting a nice shiner. That was Naruto. Him and Laxus had a disagreement. Mira Jane's eyes widened. Oh no. No one was hurt, I hope. Gray shrugged. It didn't look like it, but they moved too fast for us to really make anything out. First Laxus appears out of nowhere and punches Naruto into the wall. He motioned to the destroyed timber, but then Naruto is standing behind him with a knife to his throat. Mira Jane frowned as she heard this. So they were serious about it, I take it? Gray nodded. Sure, looked like it. Naruto might be strong, but I dunno how he'd fare against Laxus. I mean, he is one of the top 3 strongest in the guild. Looking around, Mira Jane tried to see the blonde. So where is he? Gray pointed at the door. He asked Master a few questions about Mystogan before chasing after him for some reason. Gasping, Mira Jane held her hands to her chest. But he might miss his daily diary entry if he stays out too long. Oh, I hope he catches him quickly. Turning to face away from Mira, Gray stifled a snort. Weak. Running across the roofs, Naruto pushed himself to make up time. The unfortunate encounter with that blonde excuse for a static shock had wasted valuable time. He had to catch up to Mystogan and try head him off at Magic Mountain. There was one small problem though. Slowing to a stop, Naruto brought a hand to his chin. He actually had no idea where this place was. He could turn back and ask for directions, but his pride probably couldn't take a blow like that. Running to the edge of the roof, Naruto looked down for any shops that may be able to help. There was a door chime beneath him however, and Naruto looked down to see a familiar shock of bright blue. What perfect timing! Jumping down, Naruto smirked as Levi let out a small squeal. Levi-chan. How are you? Can I ask you something? Naruto. Jumping him before he was ready, Levi gave him a quick hug before standing back. I'm so happy you're safe. When Urza told me you left her with a clone, I was worried about you. Laughing awkwardly, Naruto scratched the back of his head. Sorry about that then. I'll make it up to you later. Can I ask you this question now? Oi, who are you? Resisting the mounting urge to facepalm, Naruto looked up at the latest interruption. Oh, forgive me, this is Naruto. You haven't met yet, have you? No, not as of yet, though we have heard a whole lot about him. Either ignoring the barb or not even realizing it, Levi turned back to Naruto and motioned at the 2 men behind her. Naruto. Please meet Jet and Droy. They are my teammates on Shadow Gear. The first one, Jet, was a thin, slightly taller than average guy who had the most wonderfully orange hair Naruto had ever seen. There wasn't much to show of it though, as most of his head was covered by this massive brown top hat, the unusual headpiece covered with fuzzy beige stripes running its length. A matching brown, elbow-length overcoat hung from his shoulders, the trimming of it being the same fuzzy beige material as his hat. Under that was a purple button-up shirt with a high-popped collar, the top 2 buttons being undone to improve his swag, or so Naruto guessed. His pants were these strange bunched-up things that kind of blended into these knee-high black boots. An odd get-up, but overall not too bad to look at. On Levi's other side stood Droy. He had a build comparable to his friend, his height much the same too. His hair however was a deep black and the back of it was flicked up and over his head, much like the tail of a scorpion. His clothing was much plainer than his teammates too, simply wearing a long, white-sleeved shirt and a set of dark green, checkered pants. The only items of any interest were these two hooped, yellow belts that hung from each shoulder down and around the opposite hip, crossing over his chest. The main thing Naruto noticed after he had taken in their appearance was the expression on their faces. Their eyes seemed to be glowing red and they had a dark aura surrounding them, their angry gaze being directed right at the blonde. Taking a step back, Naruto looked at them in confusion. Hey, how are you? What's going on? They leaned in slightly over Levi and each placed a hand on her shoulders, the oblivious girl smiling happily as her teammates introduced themselves. Oh, not much. Our team was just in stocking up after a mission. It was tough, so Levi suggested we treat ourselves to a special something, much like a date you could say. With Levi alone, Naruto switched his gaze back and forth between the two of them as they continued to leer at him. They clearly had a crush on the girl, but for some reason she seemed completely oblivious to it. Snorting, Naruto shook his head. If that was him, he'd never miss something as blatant as that. It seemed the hug she had given him had riled them up, so Naruto thought it best to get past this obstruction and get on with finding Mystogan. That's nice, I wouldn't want to intrude then, so I'll make it quick. Levi, do you know where I could find Magic Mountain? The girl's eyes widened as both men behind her continued to grumble to themselves. Why would you want to go there? Naruto wondered if he should tell them. Seeing no reason not to, he shrugged. I was chasing down Mystogan. I think he might have a way to get me home. Levi's eyes widened and she clasped her hands to her chest. Really? Oh, that's great. I hope you find something. Her voice then dropped an octave and Naruto noticed a hint of red grace her cheeks. But before you go, you will come back and say goodbye to me? Us, yeah? Feeling the men behind her lean in annoyingly, Naruto rolled his eyes at them. Placing a hand on her head, he gave her a wide smile. Of course. So, can you tell me where this place is? Nodding from under his hand, Levi stuttered out the directions. It's actually an abandoned amusement park, west of Harjin Town. It was deserted after reports of it being haunted though. A shiver ran through Naruto's spine when he heard that. Haunted, you say? Levi nodded. Yeah, but I think it's just a stupid myth to cover up why they went broke. The town itself is south of here, so head in that direction till you hit it, then get directions from there. It'll be easy for you to find. You could even take the train if you wanted. Naruto nodded. Maybe on the way back, I gotta get there fast, so I'll just run. Hearing a snort behind Levi, Naruto looked up at Jet. You? Faster than a train? I'm the only mage in Fairy Tail who's that fast. Naruto dropped an eyebrow. Ha! Jet dropped his hand to his hips and began his boasting. Yeah, you heard right. My magic is all about speed. I can run faster than anyone I have ever met. Not quite sure what to make of that, Naruto stared at him for a few moments. Cool. Anyway, I gotta be going. Catch you later, Levi. Turning, Naruto took off down the street. The speed in which he did it too took the air from Jet's chest as he watched the blonde speed away. Droy leaned in after he had disappeared and whispered into his friend's ear, Dude, he really might be telling the truth. Frowning, Jet shook his head. No, he can't be. I'll challenge him to a race when he gets back. That'll set things straight. You guys coming or not? Turning, the men saw Levi wandering away, waving at them as she walked. Casting one more glance in the direction Naruto disappeared, they ran over to the petite girl. Heading south, Naruto aimed for the train station. Mystogan probably caught the train there, so I should be able to make up the lost time on foot. All I gotta do is follow the tracks. Seeing the rails, Naruto dashed around the building and then accelerated to full speed. He could make out a faint puff of smoke in the distance and guessed it to be the most recent train to have left the station. So sticking close to the tracks, Naruto dipped his head and pushed. After about 10 minutes, Naruto caught up with the train and drew alongside the first carriage he came to. He looked in through the windows to try spot Mystogan but saw no one. Dashing forward, he checked the next few carriages but still found them absent of the robed man. The shocked look of the passengers somewhat amused him though as they saw him run level with the train. Reaching the last carriage, Naruto noticed a few people had actually moved up from the last few so they could continue to watch him. Doing his best to look around them, Naruto sighed. No Mystogan. Glancing back into the carriage, Naruto just managed to register a large camera being pointed at his face before a blinding light went off in his eyes. Instantly the world turned to dots and a rock he'd have easily dodged took advantage of his lack of sight and tripped him over. Slamming into the ground, Naruto began flipping, sliding and rolling along the coarse ground as his momentum left him. Finally sliding to a stop, Naruto let out a cry of anger and pain as he looked down at himself. Blood seeped through his glorious jacket and pants, the tough material shielding him from much of the extra damage but unable to prevent everything. Many small cuts and grazes covered him, but those small things didn't bother him as they were already healing. What bothered him was that his only set of clothes were now completely covered in dust and growing patches of blood. Standing up, he dusted himself down as best he could before sighing and looking at the receding train. This day was just going from bad to worse with every hour that passed. Beginning the chase again, Naruto only hoped that didn't mean the rest of the day was going to become hell. Reaching Harjin Town well ahead of the train, Naruto ran around to the front of the station and looked around. He was standing amongst a bunch of quaint houses, tightly packed and rather difficult to see through. Looking over, Naruto saw a tall mountain towards the back of the town with what appeared to be a walkway and lookout about halfway up it. Jumping to the roofs, Naruto easily made his way over before running up the rendered side of it and vaulting over the railing. Now with a reasonable view, Naruto took everything in. It appeared to be a large town based around the ocean and business done with it if the large port was anything to go by. Houses ran away from the lookout, reaching right out to meet the water. A tall lighthouse stuck out proudly at point, currently asleep as it waited for dark. Leaning over the railing, Naruto tried to see if there were any useful shops around. He frowned as the sun reflected off the roofs making it hard to see clearly. Hearing a couple of voices behind him though, Naruto turned to see three mid-teen girls walking his way, chatting merrily about something, music if the occasional humming was any indication. Raising a hand, Naruto ran over to them. Hey, excuse me. I was just wondering if any of you girls would know where Magic Mountain is? Taking in his dusty and bloodied appearance, the girls took a step back, not quite sure what to make of the dirty blonde boy. No? Frowning, Naruto clicked his tongue. Well, would you know any shops you could point me at that would know? Looking at each other nervously, the tallest of the three spoke up. You might be able to find something out from the magic shop, he knows where most things are in this area. It's in the center of the town. Smiling, Naruto nodded his thanks. Oh, that's great. Catch you later then. Turning, he then ran towards the cliff edge and heard a startled scream from behind him as he leapt to the rail. No, don't do it. Sticking firmly to it, Naruto looked over his shoulder. Don't what? Seeing the girls and a few other onlookers gathering around, Naruto frowned as the tall girl that spoke stretched out her hand to him. And no need to jump. Whatever it is, it's not worth it. Ha! Turning, Naruto gave them a confused look. What do you mean? The group gave him an exasperated gaze before one of the three girls spoke up. Jump to your death of course. Oh! Looking over his shoulder to the large drop behind him, Naruto laughed. Nothing to worry about there, that wouldn't kill me. Thanks for the concern though. And before any of the gathered crowd could say anything, Naruto tipped over the edge backwards and disappeared from view. The collective cry of disbelief followed him as a staccato of footsteps rushed to the edge as everyone looked over to see the fate of the young man. Their eyes all widened in disbelief though as they saw him charging down the vertical wall before jumping from that to land on a roof and jumping away into town. Sharing a collective look, the group shook their heads in amazement. I've never seen a mage like that before. He must be from Fairy Tail or some big guild like that. Finally back on track, Naruto jumped through the town before landing in the grass plains behind the city and taking off at a good pace. The owner of the magic store had been immensely helpful, having even cleaned his clothes with a special spell he had for sale. He gave Naruto an accurate description of where Magic Mountain was and even confirmed that he saw a strange man covered in clothes from head to toe walking through the streets earlier on. His demeanor changed though when Naruto told him he had no money to buy anything with. Naruto quickly found himself outside with a solid push to the back and the door closing behind him with a cheerful tinkle of the bell. He had shrugged, assuming the man must have forgotten to do something important and closed shop early. Jumping a rock shaped like a set of boobs, Naruto marked off his first checkpoint. Grinning, Naruto picked up his pace. Mystogan was well within his sights now and hopefully, home was too. Chapter 11. Naruto landed with a thump and looked around. Suppressing a shiver, the blonde tried not to stare into the shadowed faces of the abandoned clown rides. Walking through the cracked and decaying entrance of the abandoned amusement park, Naruto stepped around the various fallen letters that had once comprised the greeting Magic Mountain. The shadow that it created stretched out over 3 times its original height of 20 feet in the falling afternoon sun. Absently drawing a kunai for reassurance, Naruto began tiptoeing his way deeper into the various alleyways. Ignoring the feeling that he was being watched, Naruto looked around for any sign of Mystogan. A cold breeze blew through the town, echoing through termite-eaten holes in an eerie, forlorn cry that instantly gave Naruto goosebumps. "Come on, you walking clothes pile, where are you?" Looking above him, the rusted tracks of some airborne roller coaster squeaked in the wind, tiny pieces of brown being plucked from the corroding metal and being blown away in the air. Turning his gaze downward and off to the side, Naruto spied a sign that stated the attraction that was attached to it was the Hall of Mirrors. Walking past that, he heard a sound from the stall opposite of it. Checking the name of this one, Naruto resisted the urge to cry out in frustration. This one was called House of Horrors. Hearing the noise within again, Naruto took a hesitant step forward and looked through the wide-open door from a distance. The fact the door had been fashioned in the shape of a large mouth with enormous teeth did nothing to rest his fears as he stared into the inky blackness behind it. Swallowing, Naruto looked around in hope that the noise he heard had perhaps come from somewhere else. Unfortunately, as he looked, the noise came right out at him, a sound much like a ragged breath being exhaled. Resigning himself to his fate, Naruto began his dead man's walk. He could stare down the most powerful men in existence without flinching. He had looked death in the face many a time and laughed while giving it the finger. He had the most powerful of all created beings nestled within his stomach. Yet give him the possibility of a ghost and Naruto's legs became wet noodles. Stepping into the blackness, Naruto felt the lack of light swallow him. Eyes widening, Naruto held his kunai up as he crept into the tunnel. Looking around, he only prayed that Mystogan was just being creepy and doing his quest in here for some reason. Hearing the ragged breath near him, Naruto took a step forward and ran face first into a wall. Rubbing his nose and cursing the lack of light, Naruto turned and promptly screeched in fright as a disfigured face jumped out to greet him with a shrill cry. Reflexes took over and Naruto's hand flashed out in less time than it took to blink, slashing the creature's head clean in half. Sparks shot everywhere and metal bolts clattered to the floor as the decapitated head continued to laugh mockingly at his fright. Holding a hand to his chest, Naruto tried his best to still his rapidly beating heart and near hyperventilating breaths. Hearing the noise yet again, Naruto held his shaking hand up and peeked around the corner. Seeing nothing, Naruto stepped forward. Now getting deeper into the pits of the horror house, Naruto could hear some soft breaths before one large ragged one would sound out. Worrying his bottom lip, Naruto turned yet another corner and saw a softly flickering light a few feet from him, the dim light grubby from lack of cleaning and looking like it would burn out at any second. Walking up to it, Naruto checked around it cautiously before a hand jumped out from the darkness and ensnared his arm. From the outside of the house, it looked like the roof itself erupted as Naruto screamed blue murder, his chakra-boosted jump sending him through the ceiling like it was tissue paper. Landing outside, Naruto gave a mighty shake of his arm and the sparking hand attached to him was flung away into the sky, disappearing quickly into the dimming light. Staring wide-eyed at the spot, Naruto tried again to calm his heaving chest. "What are you doing here?" Screaming for the third time in as many minutes, Naruto spun around with his kunai outstretched, only for it to come into solid contact with a wooden staff. Naruto stared at the form behind him, his fear-filled brain taking a few moments to realize the monster was in fact the man he had been searching for. His shoulders seemed to be shaking slightly too, but Naruto couldn't tell if it was because Mystogan was scared of the immense reflexes he had exhibited once the blonde sensed him, or if he was just laughing. Coughing a little, Naruto took his kunai and slipped it away. "So?" Clearing his throat, Naruto attempted the sentence again after his voice box betrayed him and blew out to an unsightly high note. "So, what are you doing in this place?" If Naruto could see the man's face, he was almost certain he would have raised his eyebrow. "I believe that was my question to you. I am here on a mission. You, however, are playing in an amusement stall." Looking over his shoulder in immense distaste, Naruto shivered. "That was not amusing and I was not playing. I was searching for you and I thought I heard something in there so I went looking." Mystogan snorted. "As much as it humors me to think I'd be in a place like that during a mission, I can assure you I was not. What you heard was no doubt old mechanics whose lacrima has yet to die." Raising an eyebrow, Naruto tilted his head to the side. Lacrima? The covered head nodded. Indeed. They are stones which hold magical energy and power things from them. Oh. Taking one last calming breath, Naruto sighed as he realized it wasn't a ghost or anything like that. Composing himself, Naruto frowned and looked up at the slightly taller man. So, why didn't you put me to sleep as soon as you found me? Mystogan pointed out towards Magnolia. The master sent word that you were coming and that you were a friend in need of help. In that light, I apologize for when we first met. Naruto raised a hand to his head and smiled awkwardly. Ah, well, it's okay. It's not like you knew who I was or anything. Dropping the arm, Naruto then became serious. So the reason I am here is because I think you can get me home. You know something about that weird portal in the sky and I think it might be my ticket back to my dimension. Naruto then noticed some movements then that indicated Mystogan was becoming defensive. While I know what that was in the sky and to where it leads, I do not know if it is able to break through to your own dimension. Naruto frowned at this. He was being rather difficult over the subject. Crossing his arms, he tried another question. So what's your deal with closing them? They're just holes in the sky. Mystogan shook his head. No, they are more than that, though I really do not wish to elaborate. Getting cranky, Naruto pointed a finger at him. Dude, what is your problem? All I want to know is what it is and how do I make one that can send me home. It's not like I'm asking you to reveal your deepest dirtiest secrets, Dadabayo. The robed man sighed as Naruto fumed. Turning an eye to the pouting blonde, Mystogan shook his head. Actually, that is a rather big secret I have been keeping. If I am to tell you anything though, you must swear on your honor you will not tell another single person. Remember, the only reason I am willing to tell you this is because the master requested I help you and the fact that you already come from another dimension. Hearing the seriousness in his voice, Naruto nodded. I swear, I'll never tell no one. Sighing again, Mystogan looked around. That hole in the sky, it is called an anima. It was developed by the other world of Edolos because that world has a limited supply of magic. Earthland has an unlimited supply, so the anima steals magic from this world. Not quite seeing the problem, Naruto shrugged. So? Why can't this world just give Edolos some? Mystogan shook his head. No, that would be a very bad idea. Firstly, the king of Edolos has grown incredibly power-hungry in his chase for magic and holds a dictatorship over what is left. Any more would only add to his strength. Secondly, anima can only take magic from this world in a solid form to be converted into a lacrima. If this was used over, say, a town or settlement, that entire village and its people would cease to exist. Naruto's eyes widened when he heard this. Alright, that's a fair reason. He then turned a thoughtful gaze to the sky. Could you still send me there though? Through one of those anima things before it sucks anyone up? Mystogan shook his head again. No. For an anima to be big enough to allow transport between worlds, it would have already have needed to be large enough to absorb the surrounding material. And I will not let one get that big, no matter where it's located. Frowning unhappily, Naruto really wasn't pleased with the answer but understood his position. Turning a thoughtful eye to Mystogan, Naruto then frowned. So why do you know so much about this place and how to close them? The man didn't say anything and simply turned away. Watching him as he continued to walk away, Naruto snapped his fingers as the answer came to him. You're from there, aren't you? Mystogan faltered ever so slightly in his stride and that was plenty enough of a confirmation for Naruto. Smiling, Naruto ran up beside him and dropped a hand onto his shoulder. Well, never fear, I said I'd never tell anyone so your secret is safe with me. Raising his arms behind his head, Naruto then started looking around as Mystogan continued walking deeper into the abandoned park. So, you sure there's no way to make me an anima to get me home from here? Mystogan stopped and looked under a raised attraction. No. There is nothing. Naruto looked down at him. Not even if I knew the exact location of where I came through. Straightening, Mystogan looked around. No. We do not have the tools required. Naruto watched as the man walked over to the other side of the street and looked under yet another stall. Do you know how to make it though? Like, what if we built one here? Improvised with what we have. Naruto could have sworn he heard the man huff in annoyance. No, I do not know how to build one. Operate, yes. Build, no. Naruto fell silent as he thought that over. So, there's nothing we can do? No. Ignoring the sharpness to the answer, Naruto pouted. Well, that sucks. I need to get home. Sighing in exasperation, Mystogan looked over at Naruto. I apologize for not have the answer to your problems. However, you standing here complaining isn't helping anyone. Growling, Naruto crossed his arms over his chest. Well, do you know anyone who might be able to get me home? Rubbing his forehead through the slit in his headgear, Mystogan nursed a budding headache. No. I know of no one, nor anything in this world that could send you home. There is nothing to say that there isn't some way to get you home, I just do not have the answer you seek. Groaning, Naruto dropped to the ground and looked at the sky. Ah, and I thought I was so close to getting home too. This sucks. Gazing at the dark night clouds that were gathering overhead, Naruto glanced down when he heard footsteps receding. Seeing Mystogan look down at a sheet of paper in his hands, Naruto jumped up and ran over curiously. So what is that? Mystogan rolled it up and tucked it away before Naruto could see it properly. That was the mission slip. Waiting for more information, Naruto grew disappointed with the lack of elaboration. So, what you gotta do? Turning, Naruto realized the patient man had his limits. It does not concern you. This is my mission, I will complete it and then I will collect the reward. That is all you need know. Now, please leave me be and go back to the guild. I have helped you all I can and I would appreciate it if you left me in peace now. Watching as the man came suspiciously close to stomping away, Naruto looked over to the horizon as the last few rays of light disappeared. Shrugging, Naruto could take a hint. Turning, he made his way back through the creepy streets. It was too late to do anything now, so he'd set up camp and then head out in the morning. Shivering, Naruto then rubbed his arm as a cold chill blew across him. As a trained ninja, he was told never to ignore his instincts, and currently they were quite loudly shouting that he was being watched. They had been the whole time he had been in this horrible place, but now they were extra loud. Taking a breath, Naruto then whipped around with his eyes wide. Alright you spooky bastard, where are you hiding? Nothing moved except for a slight gust of wind which blew up a puff of dust. Frowning, Naruto checked the area again before turning and making his way out. Settling down, Naruto leant against a tree and poked the small fire in front of him with a long stick. He had managed to find a deer and turn it into his dinner without too much fuss. Now satisfied, Naruto was left to ponder his thoughts as he digested his meal. There was definitely something creepy in that place that didn't want me there. I'm just glad to be out. Shame Mystogan couldn't help me any more than give me a few details though. Interesting, but useless. Maybe I could convince him to let me hang around with him when he goes looking for another anima. I might be able to work something out. Or he might think again and try send me over, seems like a good plan. I'll go see him now. Standing with a smile on his face, Naruto turned and looked over at the eerie, dark carnival. A little ghost eye was nothing if it meant he could get home. Grabbing a well-burning branch, Naruto jogged over to the entrance. He looked around for any sign of the robed man and sighed when he saw nothing. Now that he was closer to the accursed place, a lot of his bravado seemed to have vanished. Stupid ghosts. Swallowing, Naruto resolved himself and stepped into the main street. He looked around cautiously as strange echoing calls surrounded him. It could have been passed off as the wind through the walls if there had been any wind. As it stood though, there was not a breath and yet the noise continued. Holding his arms to himself, Naruto shivered as the temperature dropped. While the burning stick was nice, it didn't give off nearly enough heat to warm him. Cupping a hand to his mouth, Naruto called out hesitantly. Mystogan? You there somewhere? I want to ask you another question. The soft, hollow cries were all that replied and Naruto dropped his head as he looked around. Taking a breath, he tried to calm himself and looked out for any clothes shaped like a human. Alright Naruto, just breathe. It's just the wind. Just the wind. Nothing scary. He then jumped when he heard a thump ahead of him. Hearing a grunt that sounded a lot like Mystogan, Naruto ran forward. Rounding a corner, Naruto saw Mystogan standing in the middle of a street with a staff out, looking around cautiously. Breathing a sigh of relief, Naruto held a hand up. There you are. I was beginning to think you had left. So, what are you do? Not given the time to even think of a kawarimi, body replacement, a solid iron bar smashed into the back of Naruto's head. Mind spinning from the shock, Naruto stumbled forward before screaming out in pain and holding his head. Damn it! What the hell was that? Glaring back around behind him, Naruto saw the bar lying on the ground. Tears pricked his eyes as the pain covered his cranium, and all Naruto could think of was to inflict pain on whatever it was that hurt him. Hearing a movement off in the shadows, Naruto whipped his furious glare over and tried to see anything. That how you want to do this, huh? Let's see how you like it when someone smacks your head with a pole. Running over to it, Naruto picked the large thing up. Here, try it. Hearing a nervous shuffle move away, Naruto zeroed in on that point and swung. Letting out an effort-filled cry, the bar shot away from his hands like a bullet, spinning so fast it looked like a giant, deadly frisbee. Whether it hit anyone or not was unknown, though, since the amount of noise it created as it mowed down several attraction stands was enormous. Dropping to his knees again, Naruto cried out as he held his head. That had hurt. The massive lump that was forming wasn't helping the pain either. Naruto was just thankful he had a thick head and healed fast. As the pain dulled to a powerful throb, Naruto opened an eye and looked over at Mystogan. The man seemed to be swinging away at the air around him in some weird kata. Growling, Naruto called out to him. That had better not have been you. What are you doing anyway? The man grunted as he parried something with a clang. I'm busy. Groaning, Naruto pulled himself to his feet and rubbed the now shrinking lump. He watched Mystogan for a moment longer before he heard something trying to creep up behind him. Oh no, you don't. Disappearing in a flash, Naruto appeared several feet back with his hand wrapped around something in the air and instantly felt hands trying to pry open his fingers. His eyes widened as he realized there was an invisible someone now in his grasp. The strangled gurgles also made him realize he had a pretty tight grip too. Slackening it off, he frowned. Who are you? Was that you who smacked me over the head? The blonde felt a kick smack into his side, but it hardly made him move at all. Raising an eyebrow, Naruto simply tightened his grip. We can do it your way if you really want. You kick, I squeeze, and we see who wins. It was an empty threat, but who was this person to call his bluff? Feeling the resistance weaken, Naruto frowned. Good choice. Now, who are you? Shimmering into view, Naruto's eyes widened again when he discovered that he had a rather busty woman by the throat. She had long pink, plaited hair that stretched most of the way down her back. Her furious green eyes glared at him as his grip unconsciously tightened. There was a small, horizontal scar under her left eye that seemed to crinkle the skin a bit as she frowned. Looking down, Naruto saw she had a very typical ninja getup on. Tight, form-fitting pants and top, a belt with several tools hanging from it and rubber-soled shoes to help quieten her steps. The fury on her face marred her pretty complexion as her hands lifted to his arm again. How did you hear me? Naruto shrugged. Not many people can get the drop on me when I'm on edge. I answered your question, now you answer mine. Who are you? The woman scowled and replied with another question. How did you survive that bar to the head? Frowning, Naruto gave her a gentle shake. Oi, that's not nice. Answer my question first. Hearing yet another noise behind him, Naruto's face lit up in annoyance as he stepped to the side and snatched out his other hand. Feeling his fingers close around another neck, he smirked. Dragging the new person back in front of him, Naruto gave them a shake too. I assume this is your friend? The pink-haired woman in his left hand glared at the newcomer. How come you didn't attack him? Naruto dropped an eyebrow at the question. I'm right here, you know. He was ignored as another lady shimmered into view. Had his hands not been occupied, he would have rubbed his eyes because he was currently holding an identical replica of this woman in his other hand. The only noticeable difference though was that this new lady had a scar under her right eye. I tried. He was too fast. Sweat dropping at being ignored by his captives as they began to bicker, Naruto looked over at Mystogan. The man had managed to subdue his opponent and was now tying up a third girl, that one also looking like she was identical to these two. Hey, what's going on here? Turning, Mystogan shook his head. Bring them here. We'll tie them up. Fine. Taking a step, Naruto had to snap his thighs together forcefully as the two women in his grasp lashed out with a kick aimed at his most manly of places. Catching their shins mere inches before contact, the girls shivered as his gaze darkened. Oh, you should not have tried that. Bringing their heads together in a sharp crack, Naruto watched as they flopped into unconsciousness, his grasp around their throats being the only thing holding them up. Dragging them over to an amused Mystogan, he dropped them before the man and tuned out of the third triplet, screaming indignantly. "For what I know of you, that seemed a bit out of character." Naruto raised an annoyed eyebrow. "All bets are off when the family jewels are targeted." Kneeling, Mystogan began wrapping up the twins before tying them to their still screaming sister. "So who are these guys?" Standing, the robed man dusted down his pants. "It seems these women were the cause of the rumors." The job description mentioned that there had been thefts around this area of some rather curious objects, coupled by some mysterious sounds. "My guess it was these three." Nodding, Naruto walked around in front of the last awake girl and smiled as she snapped at him. "Hey there. Mind telling us why you and your darling siblings attacked us?" She spat at his face and growled as he dodged it. He patted her head, much to her aggravation, and grinned infuriatingly. "That's not very nice. You almost hit me." She screamed and tried to bite his fingers. Pulling them away, Naruto looked down at her in concern. Should she be this aggressive? Walking up beside Naruto, the man crossed his arms. "I don't believe so. This is most unusual." Looking around, Naruto nodded. "Yeah." Glancing around the area, Naruto pursed his lips. "Hang on a second. Let me try something." Stepping back, Naruto formed the ram seal and welled up a generous amount of chakra. Kai, release. The entire surrounding area instantly shimmered and dispersed as Naruto's chakra ran through the illusion. Whoa! Taking a step back, Naruto's eyes widened as he saw an old storehouse standing before him. It had huge dual doors on the front with a couple of comparatively tiny windows spotted around the base. The wood looked to be old and rotting, but for some reason held up the structure with ease. Surrounding the area were the ruins of the carnival, their positioning perfect to include this out-of-place structure. Looking over at Mystogan, Naruto saw the man was just as surprised as he was. Looking around, Mystogan brought out a second stave. "You have a curious ability there, being able to break illusions like that. Especially one of that size." Nodding, Naruto turned his gaze to the girls on the ground. The last of the three had fallen into unconsciousness, her head lolling backwards and her mouth open with a small amount of drool seeping from her lips. Frowning, Naruto knelt down and made her more comfortable. It looked like the three girls had been controlled by some form of mind manipulation. Looking over to Mystogan, their eyes met and they nodded before heading towards the storehouse. Creeping up to it, Naruto looked in through a window. Seeing nothing interesting, he turned back to Mystogan. "Alright, I'll check things from above if you want to go in through the door." Agreed. Not waiting for anything more, Naruto quickly channeled some chakra to his hands and feet and rapidly ascended the wall. Reaching the top, he peeked over the edge and looked around. His eyes widened as he saw a single door in the middle of the roof. Checking to see that there were no other people, Naruto slipped over onto the slanted wood and ran over to the door. It was attached to a box no taller than the door was, but only the depth of a single person. Seeing no handle, Naruto pulled out a bit of ninja wire and slipped it into the crack opposite of the hinges. Running it up and down, he found the resistance of the latch. Pulling it out, he bent the wire around in the shape of a Q and threaded it back in and around the latch. When it poked back out at him, Naruto grabbed it and began rubbing the wire back and forth against the metal. Feeding some chakra gently into the wire, it gained a sharp edge and quickly sawed through the latch. Once that was done, Naruto pocketed the wire and gently pried open the door with a kunai. There was a handle on the inside of the door, so Naruto guessed this was some form of an escape route. Opening it wider, Naruto looked in to see a ladder descending down into the bowels of the building. Making sure everything was secure, he gripped the first bar and began lowering himself down head first, anchoring himself to the ladder with chakra as he descended. The exit route wasn't very long, but it was quite dark. For most of the way, Naruto had to rely on his sense of touch to climb down until his hands touched on what felt like a trapdoor. This was also made of wood and had a rusted latch to the right-hand side. Grasping it, Naruto gently pulled and was relieved to find it opened inward. Shifting his head over to the side, he peered through the crack that had appeared and checked everything in sight. So far, it looked like a simple wooden room, completely empty of any ornaments. No people were in there either, so he gently pulled the door open further. Resting it on the side wall, Naruto carefully lowered his head through the hole and checked around. The sound of some very muffled voices reached his ears, but from the monotone rumble, Naruto could tell they were several thick walls away at least. Like he had first seen, there was absolutely nothing in the room. The only defining thing of it was the old door that hid in the shadows of the corner. Checking once more for any surveillance material, Naruto let himself drop silently to the floor and instantly ran to the darkest corner of the room. Counting to 100, Naruto stared, edging for the door, now fairly confident that no one was going to come rushing in. Grasping the handle, Naruto pulled it open but froze when the hinges creaked. The door was already halfway open, however, and as such, Naruto squeezed through the gap and into the hall beyond. Sticking close to the ground, Naruto ran down the featureless corridor, eyes and ears wide open for the tiniest of movements or sounds. Nearing a door towards the end of the hall, Naruto slowed up and frowned. There sounded like some faint footsteps disappearing as whoever owned them seemed to run away. Peeking under the door, Naruto saw that the room was dimly lit and what looked like the legs of a table and some ratty chairs were close to the center of it. Pushing the door open, Naruto looked around and crawled in. There was some abandoned food scraps and a couple of empty mugs on the badly stained tabletop, the food half chewed and still reasonably warm. Looking to the open door on the opposite side of the room, Naruto quickly moved to it and looked in. Yet another hallway led away, the dust all having been disturbed by the recent flurry of activity. A muffled shout from somewhere deep down the hall reached Naruto's ears and he frowned. It sounded aggressive and challenging, so Naruto could only guess they were out to attack someone. Hearing a boom follow up fairly soon after, the blonde widened his eyes. It had to be Mystogan they had found. Giving up most forms of stealth, Naruto slipped past the door and started running towards the noise. Several open doors lined the hallway, all looking like they had just been abandoned for the attack. Sliding into a right-hand, 90-degree corner, Naruto stopped and was confronted by a strange-looking man. "Oi, how did you get in here?" Not quite sure if he was friend or foe, Naruto readied himself. "Came in through the back way." "What's going on?" The man then rolled his yellow eyes and grabbed Naruto's jacket. "Well, don't just stand there, you moron. We've gotta go catch this guy." Completely bewildered, Naruto let himself be dragged along as the man fumed to himself. Looking around as they passed the last abandoned room, Naruto turned his gaze back to his guide. So what exactly is happening?" Casting Naruto an incredulous look, the man growled. "Where the hell have you been? The alarm was sounded over 5 minutes ago. It seems like a mage from fairy tale has somehow found us." Stumbling as the man wrenched him around another corner, Naruto heard another boom, much closer than the last. Coming to a set of stairs, they rapidly descended them and came into what looked like the storehouse on the first floor. Looking over to the noise, Naruto saw Mystogan surrounded by what looked like 100 to 150 mages, all trying to coordinate an attack on the secretive man. Finally bringing up the rear, the fellow dropped his hand from Naruto's chest and tapped a powerful-looking man on the shoulder. "Sir, sorry for making you wait. I found a straggler and brought him down." Turning, the massive man looked over his shoulder, first at the guide, then at Naruto. His eye widened and he turned fully to the guide and pointed an accusing finger at Naruto. "Who the hell is he? He's not a part of the guild." Near deafened by the roar, the comparatively small man turned to look at Naruto. "You're not." Naruto shrugged. "What guild is this?" The man started sweating as the mountain behind him began to bear down on him. "PHPH Phantom Lord." A mighty kick then caught the man in the seat of his pants and he was sent rocketing through the roof high above with an almighty scream. Looking up, Naruto whistled at his rapid departure. "Wow, not bad." The huge man grunted and cracked his knuckles. "Sorry, he was new, so obviously didn't know to kick your ass when he saw you." "Say what?" Naruto then cried out as the man jumped forward, his surprising speed not at all hampered by his size. Diving into a side roll, Naruto avoided the strike and looked up. The man had already turned and was charging in again. Thinking on his feet, Naruto raised both hands and caught the incoming haymaker. Using his own strength against him, Naruto let himself be sent into a long backflip, his feet coming through and catching the man twice in the jaw. The first foot snapped his jaw shut with a painful snap and the second sent him sprawling away and into the group he had just broken formation from. Landing in a crouch, Naruto looked over to see now a good dozen eyes trained on him. "Aw!" A cry sounded out and suddenly Naruto had to contend with over 10 men trying to incapacitate him. Weaving to the side, Naruto grunted unhappily as an unsuspected blow caught him in the middle of his shoulders. Dodging the various magical and physical attacks wasn't really an option when they were raining down on him from all directions. Dropping to the ground as a blade of something sailed over his head, Naruto growled and then rolled to the side as a spear smashed down where his stomach used to be. Seeing a foot within reach, Naruto lashed out a hand and grasped the limb. Rolling again onto his back, Naruto brought his arm around in a wide arc, the man screaming as the blonde's superior strength sent him flying through his comrades. Flipping to his feet, Naruto backed up against a wall and checked out his opponents. The group that had just been knocked down were getting back up as well as more coming to join in on the attack. Hearing a boom, Naruto looked up and saw a massive plume of dust along with several screaming men being sent spiraling into the air. Deciding to step things up, Naruto leveled his gaze at his attackers and grinned. He then raised his hands and brought them in front of his chest and crossed his fingers. Kage Bunshin, Shadow Clone. The group suddenly paused in their slow approach and all the men and women widened their eyes when suddenly 30 or so exact replicas of the blonde they were stalking exploded into view. Seeing the amazed looks on his assailants' faces, Naruto laughed. What happened? Where did all your steam go? No one moved, so Naruto shrugged and grinned a little more evilly at them. No takers? Fine then, I'll go first. Try keep up. Exploding into action, the blonde and orange group blurred into the mages. The actual attack lasted less than 3 seconds as the Narutos plowed through them. Bodies went flying in all directions as near-invisible kicks and punches broke through hastily constructed guards. Sliding a fist into the face of the last man, Naruto paused and looked around as his target was sent careening across the massive room. His clones had all fanned out and were now in a perfect semicircle around him in various attack poses as men rained down around them. Seeing the group all turn their gaze to him, Naruto nodded appraisingly and basked in the moment of his awesomeness. Damn, he looked cool. He was broken from his moment of glory when what looked like a paper star was thrown through a clone, causing it to explode. Over 24 eyes then turned their gazes over to the man that had attacked and frowned. He was a weedy little thing and instantly started sweating bullets when he was locked on. Not even trying to attack, he turned tail and fled. Chuckling to himself, Naruto straightened up and looked over towards Mystogan. The man seemed to be batting away humans and their attacks like he was playing a ball game, but with the large number of men surrounding him, he was bound to get tired eventually. Shaking his hands and bouncing on his toes, Naruto turned to his clones. So, keen to go create a little havoc amongst the gay lords, the clones suddenly burst into movement and attacked a group that seemed to drop out of the sky. Landing beside the original, a clone looked up with a grin. Do you even need to ask? Grinning back, Naruto turned and chuckled again. No, I guess I don't. The group then spread at an unspoken command and sped towards the mob encircling Mystogan. Smacking yet another annoying insect and his attack away, Mystogan very nearly let a growl through his lips as another pest quickly filled that last one's space. He still couldn't understand how he had been detected when he had entered either. He had sworn he had been completely silent. The only thing he could think of was that one single bird that fluttered away as soon as he had opened the door. A raised voice then called out over the noise of the fight. So, how's it going over here? Getting tired yet? Casting an irritated glance over his shoulder, he saw that immensely annoying blonde standing behind him. Mystogan was naturally a reserved person, so this abrasive human was exactly the kind of person he avoided at all costs. However, despite his sizable shortcomings, Mystogan couldn't deny the boy was incredibly powerful. The trail of downed Phantom Lord agents behind him coupled with the solid replicas creating mayhem in the midst of the mages only raised his begrudging respect of the blonde. Beating away another weak attack, Mystogan grunted. I'm managing. Naruto chuckled as he backed up against Mystogan and began protecting his back. That's good to hear. So, do you know what these losers want exactly? I mean, outside of trying to turn us into a paste on the floor. Ducking under a poorly thrown spell of some form, Mystogan threw his staff into the man's gut before recalling it back to his hand. I am unaware of their objective yet. We need to capture someone willing to talk. Lashing out with 2 back-to-back roundhouse kicks, Naruto connected solidly with the stomachs of 2 women, throwing them back into the crowd forcefully, bowling over a large number of people. You know what? I think I might have the perfect guy for that. Creating another clone, Naruto then dispersed it and Mystogan saw one of his replicas break formation and disappear into the shadows. Not choosing to comment, the hidden man focused back on finishing off the seemingly never-ending flow of weaklings. Resisting the urge to sigh, Mystogan punched a man in the face as Naruto began speaking rather loudly again. So, we only need one guy to talk. You weren't thinking of having pairs to make sure they're telling the truth? Mystogan shook his head. No, just one. Grinning, Naruto brought his hands up in his favorite seal again. Well, I'll just finish this lot off now and get on with the interrogation. Mystogan's vision was then cut off as a plume of white smoke filled the area. It quickly dissipated and revealed about 200 Narutos packed into the area. Resisting the urge to widen his eyes, Mystogan watched on as the orange mass turned and began flattening the unfortunate mages. Quite a few members tried to run once they realized their disadvantage, but all escapees were floored by fellow guild members being thrown forcefully at them by a Naruto or two. The room quickly fell silent as the entire guild was squashed, the occasional pained moan from an unconscious man or woman eventually being the only noise left in the area. Nodding happily, Naruto walked over to a fairly solid-looking man and gave him a chop to the neck, knocking him out properly. Straightening, he nodded to his replicas and they all nodded back before going up in a mass of smoke. Looking over to a dark corner, Naruto grinned as a clone came wandering and carrying a rather thin, little man over his shoulder. Reaching Mystogan, the clone dropped his cargo, winked at Mystogan, then disappeared. Rolling his eyes, the robed man crossed his arms and looked down at the cowering human. So is this what I think it is? Walking up, Naruto placed a hand on the man's head and earned himself a frightened squeak from the motion. Sure is. Shouldn't be too hard to get some information from him. Kneeling down in front of the shivering man, Naruto grinned and looked him in the eye. So, what's your name? Flicking his gaze from Naruto to Mystogan and back again, the man swallowed several times before speaking. Tony. Naruto instantly had the feeling this guy and Hinata would get on famously. Tony huh? Nice to meet you. I'm Naruto and I'm looking to get a bit of information. Mind helping me out? Swallowing, Tony hesitantly shook his head. I can't. I'd be expelled from the G Guild. Frowning, Naruto placed a hand on his shoulder. That's not very good. I wouldn't want to have to do something to help loosen that tongue of yours. Eeping fearfully as the grip on his shoulder increased, Tony began stuttering incoherently. Rolling his eyes, Naruto gave the man an escape. How about you tell us, then we don't say who we got the info from. Falling silent, the man looked up at Mystogan hesitantly. Why you promise? Naruto nodded reassuringly and Mystogan just grunted. Swallowing, Tony nodded unhappily and began speaking. Oh okay, WWL, what I know is that we were here to gather provisions for the main guild. Mystogan looked down at him. I thought it seemed a bit small. What is the main part of the guild doing to need a storehouse like this? Cringing, Tony held his hands up. I dunno, I swear. They don't tell low-ranked mages like me anything important. I just know that there are a bunch of other guild segments doing the same thing as us. Looking up at Mystogan, Naruto frowned. What could they be stocking up on provisions for? Mystogan shrugged and asked Tony another question. What can you tell me about those 3 hypnotized girls out the front? Shivering under the gaze, the small man seemed to shrink even further. They were controlled because of their invisibility magic. WWE used them to scare kids and people away and to keep up the story of this place being haunted so no one would come here. They wouldn't join, so. He trailed off, no words needed to complete his sentence. Naruto's eyes narrowed and he glared at the man. So they were like slaves then, hey? What were all the random thefts around the area for? You people just playing games? The small man didn't answer, so the 2 powerful men instinctively knew the response was a yes. Growling dangerously, Naruto leaned in menacingly. I should break every bone in your body for that. Just be happy I'm kind. Not giving him a chance to answer, Naruto tapped a pressure point on Tony's neck and he fell to the side, instantly unconscious. Standing, Naruto welled up something in his mouth and spat it out in distaste. I hate hearing about slavery. Leaves a real nasty flavor in my mouth, Databayo. Mystogan silently agreed and looked over the still mass of humans littering the floor. It looks like we'll need to find someone a little higher up in the chain of command if we want more answers. Sighing, Naruto scratched his head. Damn. Why didn't you say so earlier then? If you hadn't told me we only needed one person I could have grabbed someone more powerful. Scowling under his headpiece, Mystogan began walking towards the exit. How do you expect me to know something like that? Shrugging, Naruto raised his hands up behind his head and began following the man. Pausing as he saw Mystogan look up, Naruto spied a flag on the blind side of the door. It had a purple symbol on it that looked like the bottom two-thirds of an eye with two identical eyelashes sticking out from the bottom of it at about a 45-degree angle. From the very bottom of the curve, right under the single dot in the middle of the semicircle, swirled out an odd tail, rather reminiscent of a pig's tail. Mystogan grabbed it and pulled it from its place and rolled it up, tucking it away into his masses of fabric. Looking at it curiously, Naruto tried to see it again. What was that? Mystogan opened the door and walked out. That was Phantom Lord's guild mark. I think I'll start collecting these until this new development is resolved. Following Mystogan out, Naruto frowned. So that means you're going out to find more of these segment things? The man nodded. I must find out the reason behind Phantom Lord's unusual behavior. Fortunately, this is where we must part. I cannot wait, and the girls that were subjected to the mind alterations need medical attention. I trust you will take care of them. Not even giving Naruto a chance to reply, Mystogan seemed to shimmer and his entire body became a very light translucent. Goodbye. He then seemed to fade into a mist and was quickly blown away by a rising wind. Watching him disappear, Naruto pouted and looked over at the now snoring trio of girls. Stupid Mystogan, dumping me with these girls. I wanted to ask him a simple question but no, I get stuck with nurse duty. Grumbling the whole time, Naruto stomped over and created two clones. Each then hoisted a girl up and into their arms, bridal style. Sighing one more time, Naruto looked back over his shoulder to where Mystogan disappeared and blew him a raspberry. Stupid miss trick. Come on then, let's go. That's it for the part 4 of this series. Thank you for watching and see you in the next video.